Andrew forces some of these women to think for the first time in their lives. Pink, don't take it seriously. We're trying to fix society here, and you're a symptom of how broken it is. Priya, wifey.
Do you want to respond?
I personally don't think that this podcast and panel is going to fix for society, but hey, to each their own.
Well, the thing is that tens of thousands of conversations which happen as a result of podcasts like this are what stimulate conversations in higher political ethos, and that is where we go to fix society. So I'll tell you what, though, I am willing to say that if you have a better plan for fixing anything at all, like a light bulb even,
I'm just saying,
I am all ears.
I'm just saying, notice how like every time like you guys have a podcast, there's something new to talk about, right? Or it's the same subject. So really, if you're talking about the same things, what is this podcast changing about the society?
Societal
Well,
change doesn't happen overnight.
Wait, hold on.
You just contradicted yourself. You said,
No, it doesn't.
literally, here's your exact words so that you understand what you just said. On this podcast, you guys are either talking about different things or the same thing, so I don't understand how that would fix society. Do you want to go ahead and reconsider your
if you
words?
guys are bringing it up consistently, it's the same thing. If you're talking about the same thing over and over, how is it being changed?
Societal change
Well,
doesn't
do you
happen
think that
overnight.
policymakers don't talk about the, I don't know, same policy
I don't
over and
think
over
this
and over
podcast
before
is
they
really
enact it?
gonna do much.
And we also have different people
hold on,
talking as
hold on.
well.
Nick, pull up the Nala tweet. I think it should be there.
You
Do
talking
you
about
have
fitness,
it?
Nala?
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Do you have it, Nick?
I'm like, I know her, but I know what you're talking about. She just got saved and
Check this
paused
shit
and all
out.
Stuff.
Wait, pause.
she's still
Start it
posting.
from the beginning, please.
Wait, your biggest fantasy is
Not
you
even
cheat.
my biggest. It's like one of my fantasies.
And that's her.
Getting baptized, yes, but who's to say you guys?
That was us. I'm taking 100%
you're
credit for
taking-
that.
Okay.
We did it, boys. We f***ing did it.
They want the credit for that one, guys. So.
And in order to have like societal change, we need multiple people to have this discussion. It takes a long time for people to really use their thinker cap.
That could be
I'm sorry,
you.
didn't one of the comments though just say these girls are gonna go back to their, what was the word he used?
Huh?
One of the comments, the guy said when these girls leave this podcast, they're gonna go right back to their, what was the word? I don't know, started with like an E or something. They're gonna go right
Care
back to
about
the
you.
same things. So
They
it's
know
just like,
what you're going to do. They already know what you're going to do. They know that even if you are only making $200 a month,
okay.
that on that you're going to go back so that you can have your illustrious
I will.
career in lingerie
You're right.
sales.
I will.
It's not for you. It's for the hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of people who watch this. It's not for you.
Okay.
We know what you're going to do.
Okay.
You're going to be a 304 for the rest of your life. But it's not. We're talking about all the people who see it.
No, I'm done.
You're rage quitting?
Yeah, I am actually.
Wait, you're rage quitting because
I'll come back. Have an adult conversation. Talk some back.
what was that?
It was one of the hats.
Wait.
Wait for what?
Do you want to? You should at least state your position and just.
I think being called a 304 is disrespectful. Who the fuck said that?
Wait, don't you call yourself a 304?
No, who the what? I've never called myself a 304.
Andrew, you should have said strumpet.
What's a strumpet?
What's a strumpet? If you come back, listen. Sniper eyes, Chad. If you come back, I'll tell you. If you come back, we'll tell.
For what? You guys are disrespectful as shit. You guys think it's cute or something like, no.
Do you want to come back?
Sure. Genuinely.
Yeah, come on. We're funning.
Why can't we be friends? Why can't we be friends? Why can't we be
What do you
friends?
want?
There
You
we
have
go.
5
Recording
minutes,
my gold
bro.
star.
We got 5 minutes?
Pretty much. What's up?
Do you guys want to kiss and make up?
No.
guys
Honestly,
want
don't want to
to-
hear anything he has to say about me anymore after I've heard
But
what he
but
just
so
said about me.
Andrew, let's be. What's a 304? What's a 304?
So from my perspective, this is essentially just an internet meme, which is saying that you're dealing with a highly promiscuous woman who's
A bop.
generally.
A bop is what people call it.
What's a? I don't even
Yeah,
know what
what's
a
a
bop
bop?
is.
It's
What's
a
bop?
lame. It's a lame. It's pretty much a lame. It's
Well, no,
like,
a 3 or 4, it's like a.
yeah.
So
it's disrespectful as. I
it
don't
is, it's
like.
disrespectful
But
for sure.
To,
but-
and
Don't
to
you
hear
have
it
an
and to hear it
OnlyFans?
out
It
of a
says
man's
it on your
mouth.
account.
And to hear it, like,
Wait,
where does it say on my account that I'm a 304?
I thought it said it on your account. I'm sorry.
No,
Did I get that
you're fucking
wrong?
jit tripping, bro. What?
Oh.
What? You had me come back for what?
Well, I was hoping we could finish the exchange.
Yeah,
Go
we
ahead.
should. We should.
I don't really have anything else to say. Like,
We
that
should
exchange
talk it
was
out.
enough.
What should we talk about, Ryan?
Someone else can speak or something. I don't.
I mean, so you were pushing back and saying that this is totally, irrelevant. No minds are being changed. This type of thing. And so I gave some pushback to that and said it's not for you because we would predict what essentially you're going to do.
Okay,
and
so
and the reason we would predict it accurately is because we actually were trying to convince you away from it, and you were doing everything possible to tell us to go ourselves, right? So why wouldn't we predict that?
Okay, first of all, I'm not saying fuck yourselves. I'm pretty much saying your
Well, I'm
guys' podcast.
paraphrasing.
I'm watching I watch your guys' podcast and I'm laughing my ass off. I'm not thinking, oh yeah, they're talking. This makes sense. Like, no, people are watching your podcast and they're laughing at all of us looking stupid, and that's what you guys are doing on here. And then for you on a screen to go ahead and call me a 304 on like a live, that's so disrespectful.
Yeah, but is it true?
No.
Well, what is the 304?
Whoa, hold on. Hey, what?
Y'all have a nice night. We already said it, right? We already said it's a bop. We already said it's a lame. Y'all have a nice night.
You want to just take it? Wait. Can you at least?
What do you mean?
Hold on. Wait, can you explain the Pisces princess thing in the Instagram bio?
I'm a Pisces. What do you mean?
No, but you call yourself a princess.
I am a princess. I just don't tolerate disrespect. I don't.
But
if
what,
you disrespect
when you say Pisces princess, what does that mean? What does a princess mean?
I really am a sweet person. I'm a kind person. I'm really good to sit here and debate. But once I'm disrespected and called out of name, like, honestly, all bets are out the fucking window. I already said that earlier. I'm really not
If Andrew was in studio right now, would you throw hands?
Probably. I probably would.
You'd slap him?
Just like
I didn't say it.
Just like the one guy I slapped for disrespecting me, I probably would. I have a short temper. I really just don't do the disrespect.
Impulse control.
I'm so glad I'm not dating. Donated $100.
Grow some nuts.
You entitled brat. You choose to come on this podcast. You've watched this podcast before. Stop being an A+ whiny little. Get over yourself.
I haven't only watched this podcast before. I've been on it before. So for the fact for me to come back, put in more of my time for you guys to sit here and be disrespected and called a 304.
I've been nice, right? I've been
Brian,
nice.
my problem is not with you, it's with him. I'm directing at you because if I direct him, it's all bad. Like, that was out of pocket for me. It was actually so crazy to be called a 304 on a live podcast. And if you don't know
wild.
And if you don't know what a 304 is, why are you saying it? Why are you calling people a 304?
What is one?
Look, I think there's a miscommunication.
Well, I just want to make sure. Look, I just want to make sure if I was wrong about this.
Sniper's Ice Shadow
Hey, we
donated
gotta pop champagne. Holy shit, this guy's on fire.
I don't like to drink alone. None for pigtails, please.
He's a brave and decent man. He's a pioneer.
Get it.
So anyway, if I'm incorrect about this and I made a assumption which was wrong, you can correct me. What is a 304 and why aren't you one?
I already told you it's a bop, it's a lame. Like, that's, what do you not understand?
I just was
Living
hoping that you
underscore
would.
donated $100.
Oh, no.
Is 305 better?
Oh, Jesus Christ, you already undid the top, bro. Bro.
You can't just hold it out, Brian. You have to do
Let's
it.
get the champagne.
Here, Nick, just open it. I don't want to break it.
Brian, are you gonna learn to
No, I just
open
don't
a
want
champagne bottle one of these
to
days?
break
Like,
our
get everything
freaking camera
everywhere.
equipment over here.
This man is how old? 34?
He's a little younger than me.
Listen, I almost destroyed one of our cameras last time. I don't want to. How would you respond if you found out your biological father was a paying member of your OF and using a fake name? For the two OF girls, go ahead.
I don't think my father would ever do that, but if he did, I'd definitely be, I don't even know what I would do if I found that out. Honestly, that's kind of
like, what do you do?
That's really disturbing, but my father would never.
Would that be enough to take down your own? I mean, it's incestual.
It's enough to block him.
What about you?
So my dad doesn't have social media. Like he's like 60, so like he doesn't even do social media like that.
What? Okay, what if he?
What would I do if he was on my hands? I would quit so quick.
Wait, hold on. He's got a.
Just wanted to ask you a quick question.
Breakfast?
Yeah, I do have to ask. Did you have breakfast this morning?
Did I have what?
Sorry. Did you have breakfast this morning?
Breakfast?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had breakfast.
How would you feel if you didn't have breakfast this morning?
How did I feel?
How would you feel if you didn't have breakfast this morning?
Probably hungry.
Okay.
Right? I had lunch too, so because I didn't get here till 4.
That's a softer version of the question I wanted to try out. This whatever. So I appreciate it.
No, thank you too. I am a little lost.
Well, it's my own. Now it's my own experiment, so don't even worry about it. But anyway, so back to this. We know that your dad does not and would not ever, right? But assuming that he did, hypothetically, what would you do?
I think he's talking about you because I don't know if my dad would. I didn't even grow up with my dad.
He is talking to you.
Oh, you're talking to me. I don't know.
Talking to me.
Yeah, I just pray. No, I was talking to her, but I just pray that would never happen. I mean, I've blocked my dad since I've known him. I would definitely block him again and never speak to him.
In some wild, different life, he did. Just say he did. What would your reaction be?
I just don't think that it would be very good. I mean, my base answer is I would block him. That's what I'll say here. I would block him. And I would never
from your life?
For life.
Yeah, that's really disturbing to know that.
From your life.
Yeah,
from my entire life.
It's really disturbing to think about your father looking at your OnlyFans.
My DNA father was on my OnlyFans that it says that I should do. So wouldn't that be that crazy?
Yeah.
No, I didn't grow up with my dad. I met him at 25. So this is a really weird question for me. Like, I don't know what I would do. I would block him. That's what I would do. I would block him forever. And then I would pretend that he's not my dad.
I have a follow-up question to this. Would you object to a father abandoning, or what? I don't know if what the right term is, abandoning. Would you object to a father disowning is the right word, his daughter for doing sex work?
I don't object to it. My dad didn't. That's not how he reacted to it, but I know a lot of fathers who did, and it's not because they don't like their daughters. It's just because they want more for their daughters than what they're doing. So I can understand if a father did.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with her.
Well, they're bringing shame to their family name, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, while my father, that's not the way he reacted. I know a couple fathers who have reacted like that to their daughter doing the things that they're doing, and I can understand. I'm glad my father didn't.
We have families that understand,
accepting
stuck
fathers.
With us.
Well, no, I wouldn't say thankfully. I would say that that's a bad thing. But
I'm grateful.
Why is that a bad thing that our fathers just accepted us for who we are and what we do as adults?
Well, because they're enabling you to do something which is
we are now
not only
adults.
horrible for you, but for society.
It's something they can't change because we are now adults. So whether they want us to do it or not, it's our decision. So how is that?
Yeah, I don't disagree that it's your decision.
How is it bad? I don't think he's enabling
it.
it. My dad's not enabling it. My dad did tell me, I don't want that for you. I do want better for you, but I'm not gonna disown you. I'm not gonna love you less because that is what you do.
So there's no consequence.
Why should there be?
Well, there should be, because
I mean, what can the consequence be?
For this, it would be the same exact reason.
I think the consequence.
Do you want to hear the answer or not?
I'm going to tell you right now. I think our consequence.
I'm guessing you don't want to hear the answer.
No, I don't. I'm going to tell you what our
religious view.
Our consequences are that there are certain guys that won't want to date us because we do have, and that is our consequence. I don't think. And I understand that. I know that there are some guys that don't want to date me because I. 100% understandable personal preference, but I don't think that the punishment should come from the parents, if that makes sense.
Who should it come from?
I think our consequence is that we might not be able to attract what we want because we have fans. I don't think it should have anything to do with our parents.
It could be deeper.
But your parents. Okay, so whose opinion and weight do you put a more value on?
I'm going to tell you one thing right now.
Let me finish the question. Strangers who either watch you and on the internet or your parents. Whose opinion do you value more?
I don't honestly value anyone's opinion at a high level.
You don't value your own parents' opinion?
I value it, but it's just an opinion to me. Like, I keep it in mind, but it's not something I act on.
So you would value your parents' opinion more than a stranger's opinion,
It's not
right?
something I act on, though. It's just not.
I'm not asking whether you act on it. I'm asking you whether you value it more than a stranger's.
I value it to a certain point, but only to a certain point.
More than a stranger's.
I guess.
Yeah, if you value it more than a stranger's opinion, then if your parents are giving you negative reinforcement towards this, then it might inform your opinion against it.
No one said anything about negative reinforcement.
Yeah, I just said something about fucking negative fucking reinforcement.
You did.
So when you say nobody said anything about it,
you're
wrong. I just said something about it. And what I'm saying is that if your parents give you negative reinforcement towards negative things that they perceive as being negative,
I just said
and you value their opinion more than a stranger's, you
I just said to you, my father told me he doesn't agree with it, but he's not going to love me less because of it. That's
love you less does not mean that he can't give you consequences for the action.
Why the
Hey, well, stop interrupting. Let him finish.
Why would
I'm not asking your father to disengage from loving you. What I'm saying is that, are you listening to what I'm saying? Stop. Don't talk. Listen, and then I'll listen to you. Hang on. Stop. I'll listen to you.
Your question.
No. Hey, hold on. Stop. You're gonna stop. If he's talking, let him finish. When you're talking.
Yeah, I'll let you finish after I finish.
Go ahead,
So
Andrew.
anyway. Your father.
Hey, no. Hold on.
I'm not asking him to stop loving you.
Okay, well,
that would be
here.
I'm not touching it.
No, but you've been playing with it this whole show. It's making noise. Just throw it over back there. Go ahead, throw it.
I mean, it's really not that deep.
You don't have to throw it. I could hold it.
Anyway, I'm not asking.
Hold on here just a sec. Hold on here just a sec.
Number 23. Just kidding.
You got a bad attitude.
Yeah, I do.
Why is that?
Because I'm pissed.
Why are you pissed?
How are you gonna tell me that my father should give me whatever you said?
How would you know? You can't listen.
How is my father supposed to give me consequences as a 21-year-old? Like, no.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
I'm 21. I'm an adult. I'm going to get my own consequences.
Maybe
How would you even
like
know
this?
what I had
Because
to
he
say?
didn't do
You
it.
can't shut your mouth long enough to listen.
I'm going to get my own consequences. My father doesn't need to give me consequences. I'm an adult.
Doc Venabilis has donated $100.
Both of these things can be true at the same
If my daughter
time.
was an OF, it means I failed as a father. I would make amends by physically blocking her access by all means possible. Only way she does it is over my dead body or my being in jail.
Now, that might be an extreme version of this, but what I'm saying is that if somebody, let's pretend for a second that you were a murderer. Let's just pretend for a second that you were, and your father's against murder. He would still love you even if you were a murderer, but that doesn't mean he would reinforce your choice to be a murderer, and he may do things like distance himself, push you away, things like this, until you reconciled this immoral thing which you were doing, correct?
I mean, I guess if that's who you are as a person.
You have to get to the microphone.
If you're going to abandon your child or distance yourself from your child because of something they're doing or a choice they made as an adult, what does that say about you?
It says that I'm willing to enforce consequences for my morality. That's what it says about me.
That's bullshit.
What does it say about a child who would bring shame on their family by stripping on the internet?
I'm an adult. I'm not a child. I'm an adult.
Thank you for saying stripping and not prostitution.
I know you're not my child. I didn't say you were. What I'm saying is, what does it say about a child who's willing to shame their family by stripping on the internet? Why should they have some luxury from their parents? They shouldn't. They should get pushed away. They should be beaten up about it.
I'm done talking to you.
What's that?
What?
I'm done talking to you.
Why? Well, I'm sorry. Are you having trouble engaging because you've never had pushback to your 304 ideology?
Never
had pushback to your
Do you
304
have a daughter?
ideology before?
Do you have a daughter?
It's never happened before.
Do you have a
Everyone
daughter?
just kisses your ass.
Do you have a daughter?
Yeah, I have many daughters.
Okay, then go teach your daughter how to be your daughter. I'm not your daughter, so stop trying to teach me how to be your
my
daughter.
I'm having an argument with you, dummy.
Then stop trying to tell me what kind of consequences my dad should give me. Shut the front door.
Well, I just did, and I enjoyed doing it.
And I don't give a fuck what you have to say.
Father, he was a.
Oh, that's great. I'm sure you and my dad would get into it.
Shut the front door.
Literally.
Seems very defensive, though.
Who does?
The young lady here, Leslie.
Yeah, I really could give a less.
I understand,
Especially
but
what you have to say. Thank you.
What? Do you,
Yeah, I'm serious.
hey, be a little more respectful to the other panelists.
Dead ass.
Be a little dead ass. I don't care about
serious.
dead ass.
You guys
I
are
care
disrespectful.
A live ass.
You guys are disrespectful.
You said you were going to be my Caucasian.
I am your Caucasian. That does not mean that doesn't mean I'm their Caucasian. I'm not. I'm just not.
But you're being very rude to Shadow.
I didn't ask for her input, did I?
In fact, she's been very polite to
I
you this
don't
entire
care.
show.
I didn't ask for
she
her
did some
input.
counter spells.
Me and Andrew were having
She did
a
some counter spells for you tonight.
Which I can actually at least respect him for at least having that conversation with me instead of being
You've been
rude.
super rude to him.
I have been
You've
rude
been super
because
rude
I
to
don't
him.
agree. I don't agree with what he has to say. I don't,
And that's fine.
fair.
I'm not offended.
And that's fair.
It is a debate.
I'm not even
It's a
offended.
friendly
I'm
debate.
just saying how I
It's
feel.
a friendly
and yes,
debate.
I
I'm
do
not
get a
mad.
little heated. It is a debate. I'm not even mad right now.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
What's the longest relationship you've ever been in?
5 years.
5 years.
Ooh,
That's
can
long,
we get
dude.
Can we get some like something in the chat for? He dated you for.
He did, and he
do
actually is
that.
actively
Don't
in
do
my
that.
messages, still wanting me back.
He wants you back?
Yes.
Did you act like this with him?
Yes, he knows who I am as a person. He
It
understands
stings.
why I am like
it
this.
Stings. It stings.
He understands.
Oh, you were like this with your 5-year
I
relationship.
was.
Oh my God, it hurts.
Okay.
Can we get some?
It's a debate.
Can we get some RIPs?
We're all debating.
What was
We're all
the,
debating.
what was your ex-boyfriend's name?
I'm not disclosing that.
cares?
I'm sorry.
His name is
Can we get some RIPs in the chat for Les's ex-boyfriend?
cares?
RIPs in the chat. Stifler, ask everyone to rate their looks on a scale of 1 to 10, starting with you. Go ahead.
Maybe like a 6.
Okay.
9.
7. 10 in Jesus' eyes.
Yes.
That's like confidence.
Godfidence?
I love that.
Like confidence in God
Yes, that's super.
merged together. Okay.
We're rating ourselves?
Yeah, your own self-assessment of your physical appearance.
I think I'm a 7.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess by the world standard, if I'm going to rate myself after having 2 children, I'd probably give myself an 8.
10.
I mean,
Stunning.
I'm not where I'd like to be.
I'm
not
sorry.
where
I thought I was muted. Okay.
What?
Huh?
What? I mean, I'm not physically perfect, and that's okay. Like, I'm humble enough to admit that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Why are you laughing? Enlighten me.
Andrew, why are you laughing, Andrew?
I'm being honest.
Are you thinking about
Andrew,
your wife, Andrew? Stop it.
Andrew, how dare you? How
old are you?
I'm 37.
Yeah, when you were 27, were you a 10?
I probably would have rated myself a 10. I looked pretty good.
Of course you would have. Yeah. So I mean, that's the thing, right? Is there is something, and this has been something you've been suffering from all night, called cognitive dissonance and a inability to grasp what is reality. There is no universe in which you are an 8. Now, the thing is
that's
that
a bit harsh.
that's not me being
Perspective is
mean
different.
even.
Beauty
I'm
is
just giving you
different in people's
objective reality. That is an
Beauty is different in
objective
other
standard
people's
that
eyes.
there's nobody on planet Earth who would disagree with that standard.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to rate yourself?
I'd be scared to now.
No.
Beauty is different. In
No,
everyone.
I mean, I just think he's
Go ahead.
very
Just
opinionated
if you
man.
can't,
I'd say like a 5.5. I'm really happy with that.
Okay. All right. There you go.
I'm a 20, 25, maybe 30.
Oh, okay. I give myself a 5. I'm a 5.
Since we're all going to be delusional tonight, I'll just go with the maximum number I can think of.
He's going max delusional.
Max.
Yeah.
Max delusional.
So I'm curious.
Wait, who's the highest? Who is the highest
You're
here?
a
You?
solid 10.
Did you say 9?
I think I said a 9.
You said you're 9?
I said 10.
Oh, no, so sorry. Yeah, you said you were 10.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I like the poking of the bear, so I'll take this one. I said a 5.5. I still have.
But I didn't say anything was wrong with your answer.
You said everyone seems to be delusional, so I was just like, all right, I'm open to criticism on that one. So.
Killer
Yeah, but do you actually believe you're
donated
5.5?
$200.
Like, honestly?
So if smoking a cig is the same as sucking a peen, then what if the guy with whom the peen is being sucked is smoking a cig at the same time? Is he also sucking a peen, or is he smoking a cigarette?
What is this?
Oh, it's all the same, bro. You know, it's all the same. Yeah, if you go rob little old ladies and then beat their brains in on the street, that's the same as stealing a penny, bro. Come on. Like, use your brain. I don't know what's wrong with you. But anyway, back to this. Do you honestly think that you're a 4? So I'm a 4 objectively, right? Maybe less. I understand that. Like that's objective reality.
I give you like a solid 6.
But do you really are you doing that because it's a humble brag, or are you doing it because it's actual objective reality? Like, this is a problem we run into all the time, right? Trying to determine what you actually think. And I think that a lot of women hide their answer. They don't really think that. Sometimes they just try to humble brag. And so I'm just curious, like, is it actually true? Do you really honestly think you're a 5?
A 5.5? Yeah, I think I work out. I still have a decent 6-pack. I don't smoke, like physically fit. The reason why, like, I think I'm a little bit lower is, like, I have scoliosis. So if I'm not holding my posture properly, then, you know, it's not the most, like, I look like I'm slunching over.
And you think that that's an honest answer, right?
I think that's an honest, like,
Well, then
again,
let me ask you if you can give me another honest answer. Do you agree with the assessment of the girl who's sitting right next to you who just told us that at 37 she's an 8?
I'm not the host of this podcast.
Yeah,
so I
you're
don't
not going to answer that question, are you?
I think,
I didn't think you were going to answer that. It's all about honesty a second ago.
Okay,
Right?
all right, I'll give, because at this point I think your self-love is great, but I think the scales they use in the past of, like, the most beautiful woman in the world outside of skills and personality, like an 8 is like Angelina Jolie when she was doing the Golden Globes in that dress, right? I think
I would only lower it.
I would be a little bit
Angelina
more,
Jolie, oh my god,
like, most beautiful woman in the world, right? So that's why I'm like, okay, like, halfway mark, maybe I'll give myself a 0.5 because I've got some good genetics on that. You know, that's where I went with mine.
Yeah.
Do you think you're better looking than she is?
Me to Angelina Jolie?
Yeah.
God,
no. To the chick next to you. It's all honesty, right? We're all being honest here. Isn't it all about honesty? Everybody in this room is better looking than me.
Give me somebody my own age, because it's hard to compare. Like, I can't compare with you. Like,
well, I thought you just got done saying we have an objective standard. Yeah, you can compare.
I think in men's eyes, if we were both wearing the exact same outfit and they were going to approach one, it's blonde hair, blue eyes, a little bit younger, I think, at that point. But
unless the men prefer brunettes.
Yeah. See,
it's beauty is on the eye of the beholder.
Yeah.
You know.
Do you think that the fact that she's 37 might also have something to do? Do you think maybe the fact that she's 37 might also have something to do with that?
And that's
like,
what
honestly?
I said. Give me somebody who's the same age, and, like, I'd be like, yeah, same age, same whatever, cool. But it's like she's already had 2. She's 37. Like, how like.
It doesn't seem a little bit delusional to you, like a little tiny bit, that's the answer.
Don't you think she looks great? Like, especially, like, how old are you again?
I'm not saying. Listen, I'm not saying
I'm
that.
almost 40.
I'm not saying anybody here looks bad. I'm saying everybody here, as opposed to me especially, is beautiful, great. But that doesn't mean that the standard doesn't exist. She just got done saying there's an objective standard. I'm like, but you can't compare, really? She's like, well, okay, that actually doesn't make any sense. But she's trying to be nice, right? She's trying to be nice. I want to nicely do this.
She said her because she said
it's delusional, right? Come on, it's delusional. You know it is.
I honestly don't care what you think I rate as, because I am a 10 to my husband and I'm married. I'm not on the market. I never will be on the market. So it honestly doesn't matter.
And you should be a 10 to your husband. Great. I'm sure my wife thinks I'm a 10 too, but I'm fucking not. So the thing is like, great. I'm glad that he thinks that. More power to him. He should think that. It's fantastic. But back to objective reality.
Do you like the hairstyle, Andrew? I'm like,
you're really doing it tonight, bro.
Am I pulling it off?
You need his little curly that hangs down.
Am I pulling it off?
Yeah.
Andrew?
Well, you gotta, you
how do you style
it in such a way where it looks like it's okay if you're wearing a leather jacket to pick your teeth with a switchblade. That's the key.
Okay, I'll be back. I'll be back. Okay.
So anyway, yeah, back to this. I'm not even trying to pitch against one another. I'm just saying if there is an objective standard, right, and you agree that there is, then these women's answers are not in any way credible to this
I just think for me, I'm not comparing myself to an Angelina Jolie. I'm comparing myself to myself because I don't live in a world of comparison. I don't sit and compare myself to the women sitting
across how do you know?
from me because I compare myself to what I once looked like.
And didn't you say, okay, I get it, but then you would be using the objective standard of the world.
Right.
There's no other way. There's no other standard
but
you
I'm
could
not
be
sitting
using,
comparing myself to other women. I'm saying, okay, when I look at myself when I was like 21, like I was at my best version of myself, maybe 25, best version of myself. As I've been aging, obviously, compared to what I used to look like, I would deduct points from myself. But I'm not sitting here comparing myself to like any beautiful actress.
$200. Wow, blonde girl, I give you props. You may be the only woman on this channel to ever be honest with the ratings. Regardless of the other crap you said tonight, I'm gonna give you a W for that.
With a capital, it's gonna be capital W, right? So she did say there's an objective standard. She made sure that she wasn't in any way, shape, or form a hypocrite with that standard. That's why I asked her, if that's true, can you just tell us if these women's ratings are true or false? Tell us.
I'm not the host of the podcast.
No,
I don't have to
don't
do
want
that.
to?
No, I'm Canadian. Give me a break, man.
Neutral.
That goes against
right,
every
enough,
part of our code.
Okay. Just saying. I feel like if you were to respond, though, that you would say that a little bit of delusion in the room, yeah? And by the way, I've been sitting exactly where you're sitting, and I know that on camera, all these women look way better than they do in person. I'm just going to say, right? That's an observation that I've made being there many times. So,
is it good? Doesn't look good.
Are they delusional?
Looks great.
He's got it.
You look like a 10, bro.
There you go. Thank you. I'll send you a switchblade, bro.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very
so
much.
are they delusional?
I think the world wants us to compare, but I think
she's not gonna answer. Come on, answer. Are they delusional? Are they wrong?
Canadian code. I gotta live in America at least for a month before I have the balls to be able to say that one.
All right.
She needs her visa.
I got that. I got that. I'm legally allowed to work here, but the maple syrup has to drain from my veins, so I'm not so sweet.
I like that. That's good.
Good talk.
But I've heard that 93% of our generation, mostly in college, still wants to get married, and that's exactly what we're seeing around this table. So that's just a fascinating observation. I think it's really hopeful.
Are you really seeing it around the table? Because what I'm seeing around the table is a bunch of women who are like, yeah, sure, I'll marry a dude who makes $150,000 a year and pays for all my shit. That sounds a lot different than I'm looking to get married. To me,
who said that?
That sounds different.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'm curious which one of us said that.
Well, so as we're going around the table, right, what do you think that when you say a man who can support himself and is supporting himself and can support a family, if he lives in the Santa Barbara area, what do you think that would take if you had to guess?
Probably over $300,000 a year, but we're not talking about this specific location. We're not including the fact that each of us I think everyone around the table is willing to have a 2-income household. Do you agree or do you disagree? I think partnership is everything. My dad and my stepmom, my dad is 16 years older than my stepmom. They've been together for 18 years now. He invested in her company and now she makes more money than him and she's the main provider of our household. I think
so
that
he gave her money for her company, and now her
yep, and
company's
she's
doing
paid it
well.
all back. Her company is doing much better, or it's doing well, I mean, and now she makes more money than him and pays his mortgage. And she's also helping me pay for my college. So women can
that's great.
be providers.
That's called dividends. That's called dividends. That's how that works when you invest in a company and it does well. You get money back out of it. That's
Absolutely,
how it works.
But she is a female.
He could have done that without any marriage, right?
Yeah, but I think if you find a partner who's willing to work with you and grow with you and create a sustainable life for you and a future family, I think that's an absolutely beautiful thing for both partners to have ambition. And also, I would be perfectly happy, you know, marrying a woman who makes more money than me or less money than me, or marrying a man who makes more money than me or less money than me, as long as in our combined household we can ensure the safety of one another and we both have similar mindsets with financial planning, investments, retirement funds, college funds if we are planning to have children, Roth IRAs, that type of issue.
What about the love thing? Is that the most important factor, or the money
for
thing?
marriage?
Absolutely.
Love for marriage, is that more important than money? Is that the question?
Yeah.
Nothing in life is free. If you marry someone for the money, you earn every penny. That's what my mom would tell me when I was a kid.
I'm sure she would.
So it would be money. That's
no. The point is that if you marry someone for the money, you earn every penny because you choose a life of unhappiness.
Yeah.
I think that was the lesson she always taught me. You have to be open-minded, you know? Not everything in life is material. And I think because there are so many ways to make money independently, and I mean, for example, writing your own book and like creating your own platform, I think there's less of a necessity for women to marry solely for money, when in the past and not that long ago, we couldn't even have our own credit cards, you know, without the permission of a man.
Yeah, but you also didn't incur any debt. That's why you couldn't have credit cards.
Yeah, but we were owned property by men.
No, you weren't owned property. That's ridiculous.
There's not a point in human history where women have been property of men.
That's not what I said. I said you weren't owned property in this country, ever.
Me personally, no, but...
No women. Women were not.
In the United States, women were never considered legal property of another person.
But if you're don't have body autonomy and you can't make your own income, and you have to rely on being married in order to have any type of social standing.
Women could always make their own income in the United States. Where on earth did you get the idea that they couldn't?
Guys,
did you learn this in feminist studies class 101?
But like white women, like were not really accepted into the working class.
If you want to argue, I'm not saying there was no room for income and that there was no room for any type of sustainable life or women to, you know, create some type of wealth. Until really wartime, women weren't allowed in the workforce, and that was only because there were no men.
Where did you get the idea
where in the workforce were they not allowed?
They were still nurses, they were still teachers,
Guys,
they were still doing all sorts of jobs inside of society. What do you mean?
They were limited
Same types
to
of jobs they're doing
domestic
right now,
role
by the way.
laws.
They were doing hang on, just calm down, relax. They were doing clerical work, they were teaching, they were nursing, they were doing all the same jobs that they're basically doing right now.
Okay, well, there are plenty of women who are moving up in corporate worlds as well as moving up in different sections of
No, there's not very many women who are moving up the corporate ladder in
Compared
corporate world.
to
Why
50
there's
years ago?
There's so few female CEOs for a reason. They don't gravitate towards that kind of work.
Okay. You're right, I'm wrong. Women are they are only meant to do domestic work.
No, I don't think that's what he's saying.
That's not what I said. That's a mischaracterization. I'm just explaining to you the reality. I don't understand why you're being so aggressive. I haven't been mean to you. I'm just explaining to you.
Yeah, go for it.
What the reality of the situation is.
Go ahead, and then Isabel will go. Go ahead.
What does this have to do with women not being able to own, have their own credit cards or open a bank account in their own
Well,
name?
because women not being able to have bank accounts and credit cards because they weren't allowed to incur debt. This was great because right now the biggest holders of debt in the United States are women. It's crushing for most women. Before that, men had to incur all the debt. So the wife could go out and spend all of the money that she wanted in her husband's name, and he had to incur the debt even post-divorce. He still had to take care of the debt. She had none of it in her name. This was one of the primary arguments against feminism from the anti-suffragettes, is that they did not want to incur debt. And now women have racked up tons and tons of it.
I mean, so have men. It's crushing for men too. So I mean, I don't really think anyone should be forced to incur debt. So I'm not sure why.
Well, you know what? I think that if I asked a man if he got married, if all of the debt would be incurred by the woman and all he had to do was not have a credit card or bank account, I'd take that deal in 5 seconds.
What do you mean by not be forced to incur any debt?
It means that everything that all money that I spend on all credit cards will immediately in your name.
Donated $200. In 1877, a woman was elected mayor in Kansas. Your history sucks. Accuracy matters. You are in fact wrong. Feminism has failed you. Patriarchy is the way to the truth and stands ready to help be better.
Yo, good one. Thank you. You had a question for her.
Yeah, I just wanted to get some clarification there. Nobody should be forced to incur debt. What does that mean?
Just like in a purely hypothetical, like perfect world, no one would be taking on debt to like go to college.
Well, let's talk about the real world.
Okay. In the real world, I mean, that's not possible.
Yeah.
But I don't think that it should. I mean, basically you're implying that it's good that it's men's responsibility to incur all debt. And I feel like if that were actually the case, then we would be in a different argument where it would be like, well, women suck because women don't incur any debt and we incur all of their debt. So I feel like it's just kind of like a bad faith argument. I don't know.
Well, it's not a bad faith argument. It's just giving a descriptor for why it happened that way. Sure. Why it was that women, and there was far more anti-suffragettes than there were pro-suffragettes, by the way, made very compelling arguments, like they didn't want to get drafted, for instance. They didn't want, what the anti-suffragettes said was that women had the moral high ground because they weren't political tools. They weren't political tools because they couldn't vote. So they weren't tapped into as being political tools. So when they said something, they said it from a position of moral authority. They weren't being tapped into. So this is how they were able to argue successfully for things in women's interest without being just considered another voting bloc that needed to be appealed to. When it came to debt and things like this, it is true that women didn't hold they could have bank accounts, by the way, but most of the time when they opened up lines of credit and debt and accounts, it was always in their husband's name, but the husband was also responsible for all of the debt, and the women weren't. And even when the man died, the woman would get his property, but it may not be the same if a woman died, that he would automatically default and get the property. She was able to incur all sorts of wealth for herself and didn't have to spend it.
Do you think that's a more preferable system? Would you like to go back to that financial?
Well, I think it's a more preferable system to begin to move women outside of the workplace. That way we can go back to a family dynamic that works and we can get the reproductive health of the United States back up, because right now it's in the gutter. I don't know if you know this or not, but it's in the gutter.
So
our birth rate's way low.
Then why would it be a problem for any of us to say we'd like a man who can support a family? Why is that a problem if you think that men should be incurring all the debt and taking on all the financial responsibility? If a woman says, well, I'd like a man who can support a family in Santa Barbara,
well, because
why is that a problem?
this is a cyclical problem. So the problem is if you say, I would love to have a single income support me, but then at the same time not recognize the problem that if you double the workforce, you're going to have the wages of men, that you're basically perpetuating the same issue that you're against.
Apparently you can't be racist towards white people. A couple people, that seems to be the position. Can't be racist towards white people. What if I was in China? Just curious. Could then?
That's a good question.
Even then?
No, I mean, I think people in China could definitely be prejudiced towards a white person, but I'd have to think about if it could be racism. I don't think so.
What? You mean what?
Well, because okay,
you can't in China, you couldn't be racist against a white person in China, a Chinese person.
If we're going off my definition of institutional racism, you could maybe be racist against white people who live in China and live there full time. If they're discriminated against.
What if they're tourists?
I think you could be prejudiced against them.
You couldn't be racist. What?
Could be. No, I don't think.
What kind of crazy definition?
When you give us the definition, because I noticed.
Center.
I'm always very nitpicky with words because leftists like to use them as weapons. I also do. I'd like to ask you real quick. Can you give us your definition of racism again? Because you keep saying if we're going off of my definition, and I would like to go off of your definition. So what is it?
Institutional racial discrimination.
And institutions are?
Like the government. I mean, basically, I'm just talking about the government, but it could also be social institutions as well, like schools, just clubs,
like the church could be an institution, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So when we're talking about institution, what you're actually specifically saying here is anything which could have authoritative political power.
Sorry, can you repeat
Is that
the
right?
question? Can you repeat the question?
Anything which has authoritative political power would be an institution.
I wouldn't say that, but I could, yeah, sure. We can go with that.
Well, I want to make sure I'm clear on your definition.
Yeah, we can go with that.
So, a church could have authoritative power inside
absolutely.
of government, right?
Yes.
Okay, so what if you had an all-black church who was speaking out against whites? That's an authoritative institutional power. Would that be racist?
It's not on the same scale. I think you have to think. Think about.
No, now it's scalable. So what scale is it when they lose the institutional power?
I do think it's scalable. Actually, I think it has to. I mean, obviously, in a different country, I think that could be that
we're
could
talking
be
about
racism.
this country.
I don't think that could be racist in this country. Black people are still the minority. They're still the minority. Okay. There's still a history of chattel slavery, which white people have been enslaved, but not in the same way. Chattel slavery.
Okay, so I just want to clarify on this. Mm-hmm. If blacks were the majority for an institutional power, then that institutional power could be racist, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And do you know what the black population is of Detroit?
I mean, that's Detroit. We're talking about the United States as a whole.
Yeah, hang on. I was very specific about what institutional power was here, and you said any authoritative body which has political power would be an institution. Yes or no? Mm-hmm. Okay, so do you know what the racial demographic is of Detroit?
I'm guessing majority black.
Oh, a vast majority. So if they were to, I don't know, from the pulpit, create anti-white rhetoric, they now have institutional authority by your definition, correct? They now have institutional power by your definition, correct? Mm-hmm. That would fall under racism by your definition. Is that correct?
Yes, but if I'm really thinking about it like that, I would have to clarify that there would have to be some, institutional power would have to actually have an effect on white people's lives. I guess I would adjust my definition of
institutional. So if you have a majority black population and there's a minority white population and they create any type of legislation from an authoritative position, which is discriminatory towards white people, that would be racism, right?
If they were creating legislation, sure, but I really don't think that's the case. If they created
legislation which in any way, shape, or form was discriminatory towards whites, right?
Yes. In your hypothetical, if they were creating anti-white legislation that was having a real material effect on white people's lives, that would be anti-white racism.
I just want to make sure that we're clear then, before I give you such legislation, which has been passed in Detroit.
Let's hear it.
That if I can give you legislation passed in Detroit which favored the majority inside of Detroit, in this case black people, and the minority of people are white people, and they had legislation from basically an all-black political body, that this would be and fall under the criteria of anti-white racism.
I still think it's, like I said,
it's scalable. You just can't do it, even by your own definition.
No, because I think that it's scalable. I really do. I think we're talking about the United States. We're not talking about Detroit. We're talking about a wide scale. Because when I say institutional...
Oh, is there a church in the United States? Is there a church of the United States?
No.
Then how can churches have institutional power? You just said they could.
They can't have... when I say institutional...
they can? Oh, that's crazy.
When I say
how?
institutional, I mean the broad scale of the United States. These smaller institutions make up that. That black church in Detroit is an exception. You'll have to talk about exceptions to the rule. That is an exception to the broader rule of anti-black racism in the United
Not
States.
saying, okay, wait a second.
So.
Not saying, let's assume for a second it is an exception to the rule. That would in no way negate whether or not it was anti-white racism or not.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I could say, for instance, that if the majority of women never had abortions, but the minority of them did, that the exception to the rule would be the women who did not have abortions. But that would not negate in any way the fact that those women had abortions. So if we move back to this, I can even consider them outliers. I'll grant your entire argument and definitions, all of it.
I mean, my
If you will
definitions are
grant
like
that
correct.
if
I don't know
there
why you're
could be
acting like I'm making up
Hang
words.
on, I'm just going to explain it. If you can grant that if I can point out an institution which is formed by a majority-minority bloc, right? At least
Living underscore donated
nationwide, it's a majority-minority bloc.
$200. My wife's boyfriend is gonna kill me for spending all of his money tonight. To the yellow shirt, where are you getting your definitions? Seems like you're just not wanting to discredit minority history.
You want to respond
Yeah,
to
so
that?
all I'm asking
Yeah,
is that how
I'm
can
getting
you
my
say
definitions
church-
just from like, I mean, I'm a political science student. You could say you think that it's like liberal BS.
Oh, I love political science. It's my favorite. So I
but
just
I
got to
mean-
ask you, how
Yeah.
can you say if there's no church of the United States that a church can have institutional power at a localized level, which is all they're
They
ever
can
going
at a
to
local
have,
level, yeah.
but yet an entire city cannot?
Cities do have institutional power.
Then if I can show you a city which is made up demographically of almost all minorities, and they pass legislation which favors those minorities over whites, how in the world could you consider that non-anti-white legislation?
I mean, if it really genuinely had a negative material effect on the lives of white people in Detroit, and that continued, and that was sustained, and it put them in a subjugated position to black people, sure.
Being pro black people is
So
not
if
being
a
anti-white
majority,
people.
let's assume for a second that a majority of a city was white, and they passed legislation favoring whites buying houses over blacks, would you consider that to be a racist policy?
What do you mean by favoring white people buying houses? Like,
It means that the government would be more willing to back them over the white demographic. Or I mean, over the black demographic.
back them in
this
what
case.
way? Like, not allowing black people to buy
Meaning
houses?
that if a white man applied for the loan and a black man applied for the loan, and they all had equal credit scores,
Mm-hmm.
equal everything, they still favored the black man. The white man? Would you consider that racism?
Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I could show you in Detroit where they did the exact same thing, favoring black
I
people
have a
with
question.
a majority
Sorry.
hang on, with a majority black population, would that not be racism?
No, because historically,
No.
that's no. Hey, listen.
Of course not.
No, that's equity. No, you guys are laughing.
Was it combating redlining?
It's combating a historical precedent. That is Stop
Okay.
laughing. You look
Sure.
stupid right now. That is
No, I
combating.
don't think I look stupid right
You
now,
absolutely
sweetheart.
do.
I think you look stupid.
That's combating a historical precedent that like redlining. This is a real.
Yeah, was it instated to combat redlining, or is it its own political agenda? I'm not familiar
Because
with the
black
I
law.
was very
absolutely.
specific with my language. I was very specific about asking what was racism without putting in any other qualifiers. I simply asked this question comparatively.
Can you-
If the institutional authority was the majority white, and they instituted any policies which favored whites over blacks when it came to buying houses, would that be racist? And her answer was yes. When I
is
reversed the
redlining.
exact same thing with no qualifiers, she still said no. Can
Okay,
you
well, the real world
explain
doesn't
how
operate like that.
How that is logical in any way, shape, or form when the institutional power is still localized in both cases?
Can you clarify if you're referencing a specific law that I'm unfamiliar with, or is this hypothetical still?
Well, let's just assume for a second it's hypothetical and I can get an agreement before I show the law.
Okay.
I would say no. First of all, that would not be
No,
racism.
of course not. Yeah.
Because if we're actually thinking about this in context, do you agree that racism is real? Anti-black racism is real?
Yes.
And do you agree there have been policies enacted all the way from slavery to Jim Crow that have subjugated black people and put them in a subjugated economic position to white people?
Yes.
And do you agree that has an effect on them today?
Yes, just like I would agree that there's a anti-white bias which exists in the South due to the Civil War. And the Civil War created a cross-generational poverty sector for the South. You would have to agree intersectionally that that's true, correct?
Like the Civil War created
Well, you're talking about
poverty in the South?
intersectionalism. Hang on, you're talking about intersectionalism right now. And so if we're talking about intersectionalism, and I'm willing to concede to you, and I do, that there has been anti-black policies which have been instituted in the United States which have been heavily racist, and that the cross-generational effect is that there are disadvantaged blacks to this day who are not able to accumulate the same amount of wealth as the white ancestors of you and I. Me and you could both agree that that's likely true, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well then logically we would need to extend that to Southern whites who also have at least 200 years of oppression from the North on...
I just don't agree with that.
Wait a second. Hang on. Yes, it's the same exact intersectional logic. It has to be.
No, it doesn't have to be, because that didn't happen.
If the entire South is burned down and all of their wealth is taken and there's anti-white sentiment in the South, then it would stand to reason
anti-white
that they also
sentiment in the South?
that they also are cross-generationally disadvantaged. There's no way around that logically.
Yes, there
There's no
is.
way.
You can't just say something that's illogical and say there's no way around my logic. That didn't happen.
What did I say which was illogical? I'm willing to hear you out.
Slavery is more prominent in the South.
I do have to move on.
Yeah. Do you guys know the famous quote by Cher where she says, "Well, I love men"?
Yes.
Why don't you say it for us?
Does anyone know the full quote?
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's like, I love men, but I don't need them to live. I think...
Actually, you do.
No, it's...
What, do you agree with her or you disagree?
No. It's just a very iconic, famous feminist quote of her talking about... Because in my perspective, I do love men. I have had great relationships with men. I love my father. I think he's an amazing man. But I think that it's okay for me to also think that there are some aspects of misogyny in life. The same way a man could say that, maybe I'm sorry if I said something sexist towards men. I didn't have that intention. I was just sharing my own perspectives of how I felt like I was being treated.
Okay, so riffing off of the Cher thing, do we need men?
I think all societies grow from diversity and from inclusivity. So yeah, of course you need men. I mean, procreation. Men are a part of that as well. Mm-hmm. And I think I've needed a lot of the great men in my life. I just think it's a silly interpretation of how people think women perceive those relationships. Like, oh, I love men, but I also hate men. It's not like that. I've never felt like I hated any group of people. I'm just a little confused
why you brought up the Cher thing, because in the quote she essentially says, I don't need men.
I think
or she's like, I forgot. Someone asked her the question, do we need men or something? And she says what?
She says, I am a rich man. Her joke is that there's a notion in society that women only need men for money.
Or to be successful.
And I disagree with that.
Well, you actually need men to survive.
Okay.
Do you disagree?
I was using her to reference kind of a very famous, iconic, perceived feminist quote. She has gotten that was a very famous introduction to the I hate men movement. I would concur.
Are you in favor of her statement?
No, I'm just playing off of it to be playful. Why is everything so serious, bro?
No, I'm confused why you're bringing it up.
It's a silly, funny thing where she's saying she's equally successful as rich men.
That's not. Hold on, I don't know if we're talking about the same thing.
Her joke is, I love men. But I don't need them to live. I told my mom. She said to marry a rich man, and I told my mom I am a rich man.
Hold on.
Yeah, just look it up. I think it's a funny, it's kind of a cute interpretation that she had of her own success.
I think so. She was asked, "Do you think men are important?" And Cher responded by saying, for what? As if to dismiss that men are important.
What is the rest of the quote? That's not the quote that I brought up.
That's the most notable one.
Okay, but if I brought up a different quote by her, and that's your most notable quote,
two different things.
Why are we talking about two different things? And why are you accusing me of something?
Well, you should have been more precise, I suppose, but...
She is equating herself to men.
Okay,
she's constantly iconic. Then. Okay, whatever. Forget the whole topic. I strayed away from my original point.
Well, then I'll just ask the question then. Do you think we need men?
Sure. I need men.
Okay.
I have a love-hate relationship with men.
You have a love-hate relationship with men? Okay.
Can you guys also tell us what you need them for as you go around the table?
To reproduce. Yeah.
What about survival? Do you guys agree that every woman at this table needs men to survive?
I think men can be good protectors, but a lot of
I don't even mean on an individual, like your boyfriend. I'm not talking about that level. I'm talking at a societal level. You do realize that all of you
human race
need
would need men to
survive. No. I'm not talking about, hold on. I'm talking in the short term here. I'm not talking about reproduction. Absolutely. Men would need women to reproduce also.
I think getting rid of half of the population would be detrimental. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. What? Yes. What?
Yeah, I agree that we need men now because, they're half the population. Like, if you were to go back to the beginning of history and for some reason men just never really existed, women probably would have built up their own infrastructure and civilization, but that's not how it happened. So yeah, we need men to continue.
Where would they have done this?
I said if men didn't exist. Obviously, they would have had to do it if men didn't exist.
Yeah, they would have. Where could they have done this?
What do you mean? On planet Earth? I'm saying if you went back to...
there are physiological differences between men and women. You would have to concede that that's true, correct?
Well, if men didn't exist, the physiological differences wouldn't matter.
No, they would still very much matter. Even if men did not exist, they would still matter. Even if you reproduced asexually, your physiological differences would still matter. That's survival of the fittest, right?
Yeah, so then I guess, men wouldn't even factor into the equation. It would be the physiological differences between women.
Because women are not capable of building the kind of infrastructure that men can due to simple things like heat regulation.
Disagree.
You disagree with
really?
What?
You disagree?
Yes.
No, then give me a counterexample of when women built any civilization.
There is no counterexample because men exist.
Fill out why you give me one.
Had higher test scores?
Yeah,
can you give me an example of when women built a civilization?
Small civilizations, yes, but I'm saying if men never existed, women would have had to do it. Obviously, that's not the way it turned out. So no, I can't give you an example because men, because of the physiological differences, have been dominant throughout all of history.
Great. So let's engage with this under your terms. Let's assume for a second that women were asexual, could reproduce on their own, and still have the same physical prowess that they have to date, modern women. Can you explain to me how they would build a society?
The exact same way that men have. Being slightly less physically strong, maybe our houses would be made out of
they're not slightly less.
Okay, maybe our houses would be made out of straw instead of steel. I don't know. I don't think.
You don't know.
I know, of course I don't. I'm not an anthropologist. I'm not a historian. No,
do you think
I
that
don't
they
know.
would take care of all the roads and all the infrastructure and all of these things? Do you think that they could do that easily?
Yes, if men didn't exist, obviously, yes.
Yeah, and what do you think those roads would look like?
Probably like normal roads. I don't know.
Essentially, you think that men and women are interchangeable widgets. And were it that men just did not exist and women were asexual, that women could basically do all of the things that men could do.
Essentially, we're not going to know because this is a hypothetical.
Yeah, it's pointless.
The
hypothetical is designed to test the logic. So I'm testing your logic right now by asking you this question. If women could reproduce asexually, do you think that essentially they would build the same exact types of societies that we see now?
I don't think it would look exactly the same, no. I think there would have to be there would be workarounds to certain things, but like
what kind of things?
What if women did it better? What if we did it worse? We're not going to know.
That's a great question. I'm entertaining this. What would women do better?
I can't the thing is, the pyramids, the people who built the pyramids. The people who built the pyramids couldn't lift the heavy bricks on their own either. They had to make pulleys and things to lift them. Women could have invented those too,
right?
Exactly, yes.
Yeah, so essentially society would look exactly the same. It would just be built by people who you think are just slightly weaker. So you think that, again, we are interchangeable widgets. It's just that men are a little bit stronger.
If we were reproducing asexually, it would be survival of the fittest. So we would, in terms, have bigger women being able to pull things due to evolution.
Here, let me get through some chats.
Wait, hang on. Do you know how long evolution takes?
So many.
Yeah. When we're talking about modern civilization has existed for, I don't know, about 500 years,
at least
right? What we would consider some kind of modernity. But civilization itself didn't spring up, recorded civilization, until about 11,000 years ago. Homo sapiens came around about 350,000 years ago. So that's a long, long, long time.
It is.
But assuming all things equal, women were in the exact same space that they're in right this second, with the exact same physical strength that they have right now, what do you think society would look like?
I think it would be great. We got those muscle mommies out there.
Oh, they would just build all them roads, right?
I think it would probably look similar, yes.
Yeah, it would look similar. Okay. I'll just leave it there.
Cool. Thank you.
How can only men enforce the rights of women?
Well, I'm glad that you asked. You have rights, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay. What is a right?
A right is something that basically we've defined out through a Bill of Rights or a Constitution.
Something the government can't do to you.
It's an entitlement
Right.
absent a duty.
Right.
Is that a right?
Well, what do you mean by absent a duty?
There's no duty with your rights.
We're given, we have God-given inherent rights in America.
Okay.
Right? And that's where we enshrine our rights from, is the rights that God gave us.
So God gave you the right to own a gun?
He gave us the right to self-defense.
Or did he give you a right to own a gun?
He gave us the right to self-defense.
Yeah, I know, but
And
that's
we
not
have
my question. Why do you keep on not answering my question? Did he give you a right to own a gun? Or is
Yes.
that, okay, he did. So that was not, your right to own a gun is not something which can be taken away
Here's
from
the
you.
other thing. You say only men can be enforcers of law. There
Yeah.
are women can
Rights.
actually
No, I
have
didn't
a
say
gun,
laws. I said
and they can
rights.
enforce rights.
Mhm.
They can protect rights with guns
Okay.
as well, because guns are equalizers.
So let me explain this the best way. Let me explain this the best way I possibly can.
They give
so that you
children
understand.
guns in some countries
Yeah. Let me
to
explain
fight
this the best way that I
wars,
possibly
okay?
can.
So women can also
I know. You're just
have
prattling.
guns.
You're just prattling.
It's not prattling.
I thought you wanted the explanation. Do you want me to give it to you or not? So
Guns' rights are women's
I'll
rights.
give you the explanation instead of your incessant prattle. So here's the actual explanation. Men are the enforcers of rights. Rights don't exist. They don't exist. You can't taste them. You can't touch them. You can't see them. They're a social construction.
No, men did not create the rights. God did.
Okay, he did. What
Yes.
what rights did God give you?
God gave me the right to
To-
exist. He gave me free will.
You have a right to exist?
Yeah.
Oh, really? So you couldn't just wink out of existence tomorrow?
God created me.
What does that have to do with a right?
I have the right to free will.
You have a
Right.
you have a right to literally nothing except what
Freedom
other
of
people allow
speech.
you to
We
have.
have
All of
God-given
your rights
inherent
can be
rights. That's what it literally says in our Constitution.
I know what it says, but that doesn't mean it's true.
Oh, so you don't believe in the Constitution?
I don't believe that rights are real.
Okay, so you don't believe in the Constitution.
I don't believe that
so
rights
then
are
go
real.
to a different country.
I
then.
didn't say. What does that have to do with anything? Even if
You
I
don't
said,
believe in
okay,
the
I'll go to
Constitution.
another country. Now rights are suddenly real. That makes
so
no
why
sense.
are you even talking about rights if you don't
Because
even believe in the Constitution?
that's the core of what we're talking about, the right to vote. Last I checked, right?
You don't even care about rights because you don't believe in the Constitution.
I don't believe in rights.
Can I ask you a question?
I believe the Constitution is real.
Do you think
But that doesn't mean I believe that rights are not a
women
social construction. Our rights is social
So
construction.
how do you think the Constitution
You
is
keep asking me questions even though I've answered all of them. Are you going to answer one of mine? Are rights a social construction?
I believe in the Constitution.
I know.
That
I believe.
Americans have the right to
Oh,
vote.
I believe. That's not. Are they real or not?
Is what real?
Rights.
Sir, can
or
I-
are they a social construct?
No, I think our rights are God given. See, in
What
the old
right
days-
is God given?
Let me explain
can
something
I ask
to you.
a
In the olden
clarifying
days-
question?
Hold on,
Uh-huh.
really quick. Let me explain something to you.
Okay, explain it.
Where did the monarchs used to derive their right from?
Oh well,
God.
their right to
the,
rule.
The
Yes.
monarchs were sovereigns, and they believed that they had the direct lineage from
Oh.
King David, and therefore they had been given the right
Uh-huh.
of God to rule over their people.
Oh, monarchs
When we
did.
had, yes, because
Okay.
they believed they had been given the right from God to rule over the people. When
And
we
how did
had
they
the
enforce that
Declaration-
right
hold
to
on,
rule?
Don't interrupt. When we had the Declaration of Independence,
Mhm.
right, we had 1776. That was a group of American founding fathers coming together and recognizing that they, in fact, were all given God-given rights. And it wasn't just the sovereign, that we were all sovereign,
This is all.
and that we were all given
This is all
God-given
John
rights.
Locke nonsense. Listen.
It's not
Well,
John
back it up.
Locke.
Well, back
This
it
is
up.
what
Yes, it is. It's
founded the American
enlightenment.
principles
Yes, the Enlightenment
and created
principles.
the middle class.
The Enlightenment principles
It
are
created
what
the middle
founded
class,
it.
okay?
Okay. Well, no, it didn't. But
Yeah,
anyway,
the-
the Enlightenment principles that you're talking about right now. They still acknowledge
Literally
that
did.
rights are social constructs. They have to be.
They're
and when
not.
you talk
That's how
about,
you get your rights
when you
stripped
talk
from
about
you if you
a
believe
God,
that ideology.
if your rights can be stripped on you, which is how you know the ideology I'm talking about is true.
If you can
They can't
convince
be real
people-
if they can be taken from you. You have a right to
How
nothing.
is this not more relativism?
What do you mean?
More
What do you mean by
relativism?
only men can
If you
enforce
can convince
rights?
people that
I'll
they
explain.
don't have any rights and it's all social constructs, you can
Mhm.
strip them from them. You can convince
No.
them that they
That's what
don't have
happens.
rights.
But-
But if people know that they have God-given rights, rights,
Uh-huh.
and that their rights come from God,
Then they can act as though they're real, and then they can enforce that.
they are real.
God did not give us
a right to vote,
They're made up.
unfortunately.
Our rights are real.
They're socially constructed. Can you point out a right for me real
So
quick?
how do you call
Hey, is there a
yourself
right over
Christian?
there? What about over there? Hey, is there a right down there? Is there a right? I don't see any. Where are they?
Do you not believe in the authority of God?
Yes, of course. God is an existent objective
Okay,
being.
so what did God tell Israel?
About which thing?
Okay, did he not give him authority? Did he not give the line of David
Yes,
authority?
you can
did
say.
he not give his
but,
children
but
authority?
He did. Who enforced the authority of kings? Kings.
Okay, so the priests apparently are given rights from
Kings.
God, correct?
Yes, and they enforce their authority as well.
Okay, so
you always
how's
have an
that not a
enforcement
social
arm.
construct in your
Because
logic?
these are objectively given from a being. The construction of your 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 12th amendments, all of them are social constructs. They don't exist in tangible reality. If they do, point one out. Show me. Show me your right to vote. Where is it? Absent your mind. Show it to me.
The one for quartering.
You
Show
can say that
me.
with anything.
Yeah, no, well, you can say about anything that is a social
We're
construct.
talking about the spirit. So, of course, you're not going to be able to have something
Noah
physical
donated
when we're talking about the
$200.
spiritual.
That blonde is making a really good argument as to why women shouldn't
No
vote.
shit. But anyway, back to this.
Can I ask a
Back to
clarifying
this.
question?
Hang on. Let us finish the argument. We're almost done.
I know. It's just,
We have.
It's ridiculous. No, you guys
Can you
want a
show
bunch
me,
of guys like him.
absent the mind,
They don't
where your
believe in
rights
the
are?
Constitution to vote?
Yeah,
that's great.
The rights aren't a social construct. Can you point to one outside your mind?
The
Can you point to a right outside your
Can you
mind?
point to the
Don't
spirit
ask me a
outside of your
question.
mind?
Answer my question. Can you point to a right outside your
Can you physically
mind?
define the spirit?
That's another
Can you
question.
physically define
Stop
consciousness?
asking the question. Answer it.
No, because
No,
you're not.
because you can't.
No,
you can't answer
no,
it.
because
you,
you're not
you
the
imbecile.
one driving
Where
the
is a right
conversation.
absent your brain? Where is it?
Okay,
define the consciousness.
Why can women not vote
See,
if they're
the
not the
funny thing
enforcers of
here
rights?
is-
I want to know that.
No, the funny thing here is this is what's
Remember?
debated when scientists are talking about AI. They're debating consciousness, and there are so many philosophers and people that debate consciousness all the time.
Yeah.
So you're asking me to define the spiritual and consciousness and put it into a physical state, which you know is impossible. So you're going with a false argument
Consciousness
here
are rights?
to try to prove a point that you're not even touching.
Consciousness are rights? Being conscious means that you have
Your
rights?
spirit and your soul.
Do people in
is where
Somalia
you,
who are conscious have rights?
So you don't
Where
believe
are
in the
rights
spirit?
absent your brain?
Why can't
Where
women
are they?
vote? Why can't
Where
women
is
vote?
your right to vote absent your mind?
Where is your
Stop
argument
asking me a
absent your
question
mind?
and answer one.
Where is your argument absent
I'll
your
tell you what, I'll
mind?
answer any f***ing question you want after you answer this one.
Where is your argument outside of your subconscious? outside of your
All of my
conscious?
arguments are based in the epistemological. The epistemology and the ontology that I have comes directly from God and divine command.
Really?
This answers, yes, and yours
And
too.
I said,
and
my,
all
I
Christians.
said I believe my rights are God given.
That's great.
So why are you? Why
and
are
that's
yours
what
and
we're
mine
talking about. Now, I just answered your question. Now answer mine. Where is this right to vote absent your brain?
Where's your argument?
Yeah, I
absent your brain?
just won't answer it, no matter what.
Wait, can you answer his question though? Just,
No, she
just answer
can't.
the question.
She knows. She already knows.
My-
It's a
my
fail.
rights
Where's your
absent
right
my
to
brain?
vote absent your brain?
I've been saying this whole time my rights are God given.
Your right to vote comes from
So-
God?
Yes, it does.
Yes, it does.
Yes, it does. My right,
Wait, hold
my
on.
right
We
does
have
come
a
from
chat.
God.
$200.
Andrew's got to go.
My
take
right
his
to have
time.
a say in what
on.
government does.
My right to vote comes from God.
That's right.
Franchisees doing bankrupt corporations. Your substantial rights are what you should focus on.
Yeah, go have a smoke. You can't define consciousness in a physical state. Like
He hasn't answered why he thinks women.
No,
Hold
he
on.
hasn't. The whole thing
He's
has
coming
been.
back.
No,
He's
the
coming
whole
back.
thing
Hold on.
he's been doing here has been because he can't actually answer.
Hold on.
Why
hold
he
on.
thinks
Hold
that
on.
women shouldn't be
He's
able
gone.
to
He can't respond. So let me get through.
vote. He went down some really
Rose
crazy long
donated
rabbit hole.
$200.
what he does.
Ridiculous.
The Constitution is a commercial charter, which expired. The right to vote is a civil right franchisees do in bankrupt corporations. Your substantial rights are what you should focus on.
Are you going to be more physically attractive at 41 as compared to now at 21, all else being equal?
No, at 41 I would not be.
Okay, so you think you'll peak early 30s, basically, looks-wise.
Right, yes.
All else being equal.
Yes.
Okay. Huh. Okay.
Well-
you had something, Andrew?
I did. So, do you think that attractiveness between men and women is tied to fertility? Do you think that would be a good reason for why men would find younger women to be attractive is because younger women have high fertility?
I think that that's part of it, yes.
Not in all
What-
cases.
Really? What would be the other case besides a fetish?
Well, that was pretty much it.
Yeah. So that's like
lack of
if you're
mental
gonna introduce like lunacy to it, like fetishes or something like this, sure. But generally speaking.
Wait, can you say the question again, like simplified again? Sorry.
Yeah. So don't you think that what is considered attractive between men and women would often be tied to fertility?
I mean, there's that argument for sure, but when I ask my father about it, he tells me that he bases it on a woman's relationship with God, her spirituality, as well as her intelligence, because he needs to be able to trust that woman to raise children with him.
Well, I wish your dad was sitting where you are, because if I said the woman had all of those things, but all things being equal, you had to pick between one who was a 4 and one who was a 10, and both of them had all those same qualities, which would you pick? Your dad would say the 10.
Well, he said circumstantially. It depends on what that woman is capable of doing. And what
I just said they have the exact same values, just one's hotter than the other.
Well, would you pick a 20-year-old 10 over your wife?
No, of course not.
Okay, why?
Because of the value distinction.
Okay, well, I think that's
that literally makes no sense what you just said. My question to her was, they have the same values. You say, what about the distinction of values? It makes no sense to my question.
Okay,
the values are identical.
If the values are identical, maybe a man would prefer the one who's more attractive, who has the exact same values.
And why would they prefer the one who's more attractive?
I mean, I'm not a man that I should answer that.
Oh, okay.
All I'm saying is that.
Wait. Why would you have to be a man in order to answer that?
Because it's circumstantial. Like I said.
It's not circumstantial. The human race must survive, right?
Can I finish what I'm saying, sir, please?
Well, I mean, can you make it quick? Can you make it snappy?
Well, I could have been done if you didn't interject.
No, I can't. So anyway, can you make it
quick? What I'm
quick?
saying is, like I said, I've asked my father the same questions, and what he delineates to me is that it's circumstantial based on what he's compatible with that woman, what she's capable to do with him in a relationship, in raising children, having a home, having a relationship with God, and things like that. It's not just on attraction alone. And he would take someone.
I know, we know this, but I don't understand why you're incapable of engaging with this. You don't have to be a man in order to engage with the idea that, of course, men are going to be attracted to women who are more fertile. And on top of that, I gave you the equation of same value structure that your dad would like. Woman who's 4 has it, woman who's 10 has it. You say he'll pick the woman who's 10. I say, great, if you'll pick the woman who's 10, why? You go, I'm not qualified to answer that. That's crazy.
Well, I'm saying that you said, okay, I said that if the attraction was 10 and 4, maybe he might pick the one who's a 10.
Why?
If they have the same values.
Why?
Because maybe he might be whatever, but
not whatever. The whatever is the question.
And that's not what I initially said.
The whatever is the question.
To do with fertility.
The whatever is the question.
Because of our biological wiring.
Right. So the question is the whatever part. Why would he be attracted to the 10 over the 4, even if they have the same values, other than because
I can't answer that for him, because he doesn't answer questions like that.
Do you have daughters?
Like, he literally doesn't answer questions like that.
Do you value them and love them based on how physically beautiful they are?
No, of course not.
Why?
Because I'm looking at the value structure of the human being.
So do you think God judges and values the women, his daughters, based on 1 through 10 of how they look?
No.
No. And what does it say in the Bible about
what does that have to do with what makes a man hard, lady? What does that have to do with what makes a man go up? What God values in a woman or a child, or what you value in a woman?
So you're talking about sin and lust.
No, I'm talking about physical attractiveness.
Okay, that's what you're talking about.
No, I'm talking about physical attractiveness. You do realize in order to have a baby, you have to have sex?
Yes, I know, but it also says in the Bible,
That's crazy.
If you're supposed to be Christian, to judge a woman based on their heart.
Is a penis required to be hard for you to have sex? Would that require an attractiveness level so that the can get hard to have sex to have the baby?
But
how many drinks have you had tonight?
I want to know.
Andrew, have you been drinking?
I don't think.
I really hope the future, your future son-in-law.
Andrew?
I really hope your future son-in-laws don't treat your daughters the way you treat and think about women.
I'm pretty sure.
How do I think about women? Wait. No. Back up.
Virtuous women of Proverbs 31.
Can you help me out? How do I think about women? By saying that there's going to be a physical metric for attractiveness. How is it that I'm in any way deviating from any type of Christian virtue? Tell me.
I mean, you never.
The way you're talking about women the way you're talking about
about fertility being the standpoint
a
rather
woman's
than
value,
attractiveness,
right?
yes.
Yeah, but Proverbs 31 mentions a whole list of things as opposed to simply just fertility. So God says, and a man wrote that.
Strictly talking about physical attractiveness, and that's it.
But that's not what men decide. That's
men
at least my father never told me that that's all that he makes the decision on when he's talking about a woman.
I think what he's saying is that say that there are two women that both fulfill the Proverbs 31 things, but one is less physically attractive and one is more physically attractive. Which would the man go with? Say he wasn't married or anything.
I can't say that he picked the 10 because I don't know what the 10 looks like, and I don't know what the 4 looks like. I don't know what the preference is. The 10 can be a 4
I know physical attraction means
someone
nothing.
Ungodly like me.
We're not
physical
saying
attraction means nothing. All that matters is what the virtues are. We all go get 9,000-pound you know what I mean? It's just crazy. We're talking specifically about physical attraction. Of course, it's going to be tied to fertility. Of course, it's going to be tied to fertility. Why wouldn't it be?
You're asking me to think like a man.
No, I'm not. I'm asking
me what
females are highly competitive with other women when it comes to mate selection.
No, but that doesn't mean that I know what a man's going to prefer mentally, and you're asking me to answer a question like a man. What one would a man prefer? How would I know that?
Do you have to compete? Do you have to compete with other females for virtuous men?
Maybe, but I'm a
maybe.
female.
So how?
I think like a woman.
And how would you compete?
I only know what a man
how
wants
would you
because my
compete with
father
other
told
women?
me.
How would you compete with other women for a virtuous man?
I would ask my father what a man would want.
And
if
what do
I'm
you think your
interested in
father would say? Do you think your father would say, "Well, looking like shit would be the best thing you could do"?
No, that's obviously you have to take
obviously
care of
not.
yourself, but that doesn't mean that. All I'm saying is it's not like the only thing, but you can't sit here and ask
nobody
a group
said
of
it's
women
the only thing.
how
Nobody
a
said
man
that.
thinks is the best thing. You're not gonna get that response out of them. There's a group of women, like they're not gonna be thinking
Like women don't compete with each other,
but they do not think like men.
Okay, but what's your
like
point?
Men.
Because I agree with your argument. Okay, fertility plays a part in sexual attractiveness. Whatever. What's the point?
The whole point of this was just to state that yes, we understand that there's virtues that men are after. Of course, that's true. There's virtues that women should be after, but nowadays it seems like less and less. But men, I think, are attracted to virtue. I think that is a big role.
Really?
But if we were to take,
have you seen the rise of?
It's pretty bad.
Yeah.
But if we were to take virtue,
But women.
If we were to take virtue
We're the
out,
slutty ones.
if we were to take virtue out of the equation and just look at the pure physical, and just look at physical attractiveness, we're not looking at all the virtues, this and that, just whatever is aesthetically pleasing. That's all we're talking about, physical attractiveness.
I mean,
Nothing
at
more.
the end of the day, like any human being is going to value aesthetics. You're gonna choose the better looking car.
That's
The car might have the same engines, it might do the same exact thing, but are you gonna choose the one that's all scratched up, or are you gonna choose the brand new shiny one? At the end of the day, you want a pretty rock over a cracked up one. So if you're asking that, like, it's just human nature to like something.
Well, this
that's
is why
visually
I think when
pleasing.
this question is asked of women in particular, when they refuse to give a rating, it's because they don't want to be honest. And so what they do is they reframe every way that they can. But what about this quality, that quality, that quality? And it's like, look, we're just talking about physical attractiveness in and of itself. I understand there's other qualities, and maybe even combining those with physical attraction may raise it a point, lower it a point. But I think people still, when it comes to physical attractiveness, it's still tied to fertility. That's why men are attracted to younger women. Why wouldn't that be the case? It makes complete sense. So I don't understand why women are incapable of rating themselves unless they just don't want to give the answer.
Because
really
it's a matter of what do the men perceive as beautiful or attractive, and that can vary from man to man. And then like Keisha was saying, you're asking us to kind of think along
I don't
the
think
lines of
women
a
are
man.
ignorant to this.
I think that women have a different probably standard for what they think is beautiful and
It's
attractive
less based on
versus
fertility
men.
and more on
like I think that women would
your skin,
women
your
would probably
clothing.
judge
but you would
aesthetics,
still,
and maybe
but you would
men
still
might
be
judge
looking at
fertility signs.
You would have to
would
look at
be
the
an
standard on
idiot
both
to
edges,
try and
right?
think like
So
a
for you
man,
to
so.
perceive the beauty of women, there's no way for you to say that you wouldn't be influenced on how men perceive women. I don't see how
Yes,
that's.
I would be
Yeah, of course you would. So I don't think women are ignorant of this.
Asking a woman to delineate that
not saying
information
it's
is asking her to behave like a
I'm
feminist.
just saying that I think most women.
Right. You're asking her to be a feminist right now.
I'm not asking her to be a feminist.
Yes, because asking her to delineate the information that a man would tell a woman is asking her to be a feminist and think like a feminist. A woman is not going to assess
feminism
herself.
Doesn't mean can't
think. A woman is not going to assess herself the way that a man assesses a woman.
Didn't ask him to.
You just asked her.
No, I asked her to rate herself based on what she thinks.
Okay, then.
That would be the opposite of what I'm asking her what men think. I'm saying that men have standards.
Okay.
Yes, we know men have standards because men have standards. That is going to inform your opinion on how you rate yourself.
But they're not going to think of it the way that a man would. So you asking her to rate herself
based on what she thinks.
Okay, herself. That's different than to what a man.
Yes, I know, which is why we asked her that.
I mean, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Like at the end of the day,
right? It is.
So you can say you're a 10, you can say you're a 1. It doesn't really matter because everybody has a different view on it. So at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. So the question that you're asking is, it just doesn't matter in our minds.
Yeah, women, it does not matter.
One guy could rate a girl as a 7, and another guy could rate her as an 8, and another guy could rate her as a 2, and another guy could rate her as a 9, and it depends on what that guy finds attractive.
But wasn't it asking what we thought of ourselves?
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, I think it's to
gauge, but then for him to say that it's not realistic in the eyes of men. So the point is going to come back.
No, I'm just saying that your self-assessment will be informed also by men. That's the point.
And I think it also shows, are you affected by delusion?
Yes.
Yes.
To just pretend it does not exist and that, I can't
no one said it didn't exist.
I don't know.
That's not the point.
But when people hyper-conflate their looks, well, then they would also expect to possibly match with somebody who they think are their equivalent. But if you're honest with yourself, then you're going to match yourself and not have this hyper-conflated idea of what you're going to go after.
That's understandable. I agree with that.
So that's why they're trying to just gauge a sense of delusion.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah.
But there was a mention of a man's perspective, and that's all that I said was not possible.
No, the mention of a man's perspective was to say how you end up ultimately determining what your value is, 1 through 10. And it's arbitrary. Nobody says it's not. Is at least somewhat going to be informed and how the opposite sex perceives you and what you've witnessed the opposite sex considering to be attractive or unattractive. That's what's going to be true because that's how information in your brain works.
Internalized male gaze, as said by someone on the right.
No, that's not an internalized.
Yeah, it is. You just argued that we look at ourselves through the male gaze.
I'm saying that we look at. No, I didn't.
Yes, you did. You said, how do you know you're attractive if you don't use the men's?
I said it can assist you in making an informed self-assessment.
It can assist me,
but the same would be true the opposite way. So is that an informed female gaze?
Yeah.
Okay, so
there's a female gaze too.
Okay, so then if that's the case, then we're talking about nothing. We're just talking about objective reality.
I know, but some people argue that the male gaze doesn't exist. So.
Well, it depends on how you're defining
women have
it.
an internalized
if you just define what the male gaze is,
you have concurred with me that women have an internalized perception of what men think.
Well, it's going to help inform it. There's no way around it.
You know, earlier when you asked me what disadvantages me when I'm born a woman, that.
Okay, but
instantaneously, I have to wake up in the morning and do my
then
makeup
why
and get pretty.
Did you just say men?
Because I have an internalized
You just said that men
me.
suffer from the same thing, which means that, again, you just negated your own point.
Yeah, but the one for men value fertility much higher than women do. Do you see men doing their makeup in the morning so they look more fertile?
Women.
Yeah.
No,
women
they
do
don't.
because the internalized male gaze is way stronger than the internalized female gaze.
Let's prove it.
I just did.
How?
Women do makeup, women dress way nicer, women do their nails.
And men wear nice clothes, and they try to get high status, and they try to get tons and tons of money, and they try to do all those things.
That's the female gaze is money, and there are so many.
So what? So I don't understand how it's not moot.
Listen to this. Because of the feminist movement these days, women will go for ugly broke men, but men are not going for ugly women. Obviously, they're.
What women are going for ugly broke men? What women are out there going for ugly broke men? Almost none.
The ones with no dads.
That's not what the stat, like you, so you go for ugly broke men?
For real, yeah. My ex, yeah. I'm not ashamedly, but my point was, as someone on the right, you admit that women have a male gaze inside of them. They can see how men
what I'm saying is that
and they internalize the patriarchy.
Human being,
and that internalization is already a negative effect on
what I'm saying is that every
life.
human being who exists regardless of where they're at in the world. If there's other human beings who are around them, it's going to inform their opinion of themselves and their opinion of the surrounding
But one of them is
environments.
the full standards of the male gender. That's
But that would be true the opposite way too, which would make you a misandrist.
No, it is true the opposite way, but I'm
Then
saying that
you're
the
a
male
misandrist.
standards are so much higher than the female standards.
Why, prove that.
I will-
You didn't
I
that's
will
where
say-
you deviate. Where's the proof for that claim?
Okay.
I will say that a lot of male
No. Where's the proof to that claim?
I will say that a lot of male standards are very looks based because the fertility importance is much higher in women, because they're the ones that are carrying a child. And so when that sort of standard lapses as they get older and everything, then it's like, okay, my value just boom. But men
Because it does go boom.
No, exactly.
Yeah, and for men it doesn't.
For men it doesn't because
Yeah, but it's a trade-off because in
Actual
younger
biological
ages for men,
Oh, right, they
it's
don't have as
often,
much
Yeah, they don't have
finances.
as much power
Right.
in order to attract their mate. So it's a trade-off both ways. So to say that it's more keen in one than the other, you'd have to demonstrate that to me.
it's just I think it's
And you have to demonstrate it to me the opposite
but
way.
I think it is more confining when it's
I
just
don't.
physical.
I wouldn't. I actually wouldn't. I wouldn't need.
So you don't
I wouldn't
stop
need
asking
to
me for
falsify it. I would just negate it.
Do you think that men only pick women to be with or marry based on how high they are on that 1 through 10 numbering system?
No.
No, but
So
they go
then
for that higher number if they could.
why is that so important in this topic?
Because I suspect that men who enter into matrimony with a woman want to have children, and in order to do that, they have to be able to perform in the bedroom, and in order to do that, they have to have some semblance of attraction to the person they're having sex with. Do you
Okay.
agree or disagree?
Well, yeah.
Well, yeah.
Andrew, explain why you believe tone and delivery aren't important in debate. I understand it doesn't change the logic of your argument, but acting as though it doesn't matter is literally.
The only reason that you think that is because it's women being made uncomfortable. If this was the tone with men, which would take all the time, you'd be in the audience cheering me like you probably already have. It's only because it's women being made uncomfortable, and that makes you a simp, sir.
No, he just understands that women don't understand things at a certain tone. Like,
It sounds like you understand it fine.
well, no, a lot of women though. I was raised by a single father.
All right,
it's
so you just
different.
so
Like,
you're
and I
capable
don't
of rationality, just most
no,
women
and I
aren't.
still don't understand. A lot of times, if you approach a woman emotionally or in a tone that
My
sounds
arguments
emotional,
aren't for you. It's for the thousands of people watching.
Yeah,
I
but-
don't care if I change your mind or not.
No, but the fact is, if you approach a conversation with a certain tone that is offensive to women, most of their brains turn off. It's
Good.
like, but they're
It's
the ones
because-
that need to learn.
Well,
It's because-
they're not going to listen. Do you think that there's anything that I can say to a woman who's a libertarian feminist to explain to her that she's actually a libertarian feminist and not a right-wing conservative, regardless of my f***ing tone? No, there's nothing I could say.
Well, here's the thing. There's nothing I can say to a condescending asshole
You can.
to tell him I'm not a feminist and he'll
You can
believe
say it all you
So,
want, but
I mean, Jesus did it. I mean, Jesus showed love to people and with his words.
yeah,
as
and he
well,
called them
and
pit of vipers, and he called them Pharisees, and he ran them out of temple after he
he
fashioned
didn't
a
talk
whip.
to women like that.
How do you know what he talked to women
The
like?
big- what
You mean
we
when he
saw in
told
the
a woman
Bible's
to
examples, we didn't see that.
listen.
I don't
Moving
see
back,
how you're convincing.
He didn't. Jesus didn't talk to women in a mean way. I don't care if I convince you. It's not for you. My arguments aren't to convince you. They're to refute your arguments.
I like the way that he speaks. I feel like it gives me more leeway to be meaner back.
Good.
When it comes to arguing.
By the way, that's also
But
part of
that's why it
entertainment.
is a problem though, because I
That's part of
understand that
entertainment.
I'm a very masculine woman because of no dad, so I'm very comfortable with acting that way. However,
Good.
lots of other women, like she has just said, are scared of retaliation from men and
Mhm.
are scared of talking to men in a similar tone if that tone is taken.
So they're
up
afraid
against
I'm
them.
gonna
It's
wait.
not.
Wait.
What I said has nothing to do with
You think
feelings.
you,
But, like,
you think they think
disrespect?
I'm gonna go beat them up?
No.
Like what are you
no,
talking
but
about?
No. But over time, that's kind of something that's naturally ingrained in you. It's like I said with the male gaze. Maybe you're not going to beat me up, but like
Uh-huh.
200 years ago, you would have stoned me to death, and that tends to travel over decades. And
It does.
Societally, we
Your
tend
ancestor maybe possibly getting stoned to death 1,000 years ago means something
You
to
know
you
that's
now.
not my Generational point. trauma.
No, I don't know
No,
what that's not your
My
point. That
is
was the point you just
my point
made.
is that in general, women are less likely to talk back.
The thing,
to men.
here's the thing. Most women, here's the truth. Most women are most women are never made to feel uncomfortable by a man, and so when they are, a lot of women panic and freak the out.
Exactly.
But
Whereas
lot
a man in that
of
situation would
men-
attack back.
A lot of men
a lot of men on
also
this podcast
panic
wouldn't
and
speak
freak
like this
out.
if their
But
father
I don't understand. If the feminist egalitarian belief is that we're equal and interchangeable widgets, then be uncomfortable.
That's
be
what
made
I'm doing.
uncomfortable.
That's what I'm doing. I'm saying I'm
And you're the
disagree
only
with
part of this that's been entertaining so far.
I think that you
That's
know
fair.
you kind of represent like what is the polar opposite to the feminists in a opposite end of the spectrum, where
Good.
the feminists represent a very radicalized, toxic version of femininity, and what you're representing is
It's
a very
toxic masculinity.
No,
Go
a
ahead.
Go
Go ahead.
Radicalized. No, I'm not going to say that. No.
Yes, you were.
No, you are representing a very radicalized version of what it is to be a man,
If I'm on-
and you are speaking in such a way that is very condescending.
If I'm on the extreme end of toxic femininity, that would make it what? Finish the sentence for me. Toxic masculinity, right? If that's the extreme end to the toxic feminist, wouldn't that be toxic masculinity?
It's what you're essentially espousing here are what I'm getting at is very radical beliefs.
No, they're not
that
radical
aren't
beliefs.
in line.
What makes them
with-
radical?
They're not in the middle, and they're not in line.
Is the
with
only
the
thing
center.
that makes a
and
thing-
most people's belief sets are you would say the majority of the population's belief sets are going to be in that center range, and then you have some of the people who are like super ultra radical on both
What do
sides
you
of the
say
argument.
about people
but
who
I would say
say-
that they're both toxic.
Yeah, what do you-
Andrew, may
and
I
they end
please
up being
ask you a
both
question?
toxic to the nuclear family.
Yeah. What do you think that? Do you think that people who call Alex Jones's beliefs radical are correct?
Probably. I want to hear Eden's question.
And no, I want an answer to mine. Do you think that people who call Alex Jones's beliefs radical are
We're
correct?
not talking about Alex
The
Jones
reason I bring Alex Jones up and his beliefs and whether or not they're radical is because there's millions upon millions of people who say that they're radical beliefs. Are they wrong? And just calling something radical, by the way, leftist tactic, just calling my beliefs radical
you can
without
talk
refuting
about-
them.
I can refute it.
Then refute them.
I'm trying to explain right now is there's more centric beliefs, and then there's beliefs that you would see on opposite sides
It's
of
an argument
a
ad
spectrum.
populum.
An opposite side of a spectrum.
That's an
okay?
argument ad populum.
But what I would say is that both sides, when you're way too much on this crazy deranged I hate men spectrum versus this other very degrading I hate women spectrum.
Don't hate women. Where did you ever come up with that?
Well, you're saying women shouldn't be able to vote.
Why does that mean
and-
that you hate them?
Andrew, can I ask you
Okay.
a
Do you think
question real
felons
quick?
should be able to vote?
The way you
Do you
talk
think
to the
felons
women-
should be able to vote?
Listen, you're talking about.
Does that mean you hate them?
You're talking about the questions you're pointing at. All the women on this table here are very much about your values based on your looks.
That's right.
Rate yourself
No.
1 to 10.
Those aren't
you
even
know,
my questions.
And then
Yeah, those are
you
my
shouldn't
questions.
be able
Those are
to
his
vote.
questions.
Those are my questions.
You shouldn't be able to have a
Andrew's
say.
a feminist.
I don't
in
know where
government.
he came
You
up with the
shouldn't be
idea.
able to have a role.
I
in
don't give a
government.
shit how any of you look. I'm just here for the arguments. I could give a less.
He doesn't give a.
I don't give a
Yeah.
shit.
So why was it such a big issue to try to essentially?
Because you took
ask
a
us about our
position that I
numbers?
found absurd, so I argued
Okay.
it.
And
Yeah.
can I ask
That's
you?
fine, but here's the problem with when you
Do you think
have
when I
the
do debates with
females-
women, I come out and go, now how would you rate yourself? I don't give a how they look. I'm
doesn't
here
care.
to do a debate.
I feel like you guys are talking in circles. Can she ask her question?
Yeah, but
go
I
ahead.
feel like we're gonna finish the argument real quick. Hang on. So back to
not
this.
gonna
We're almost done.
Do you believe in democracy?
No.
Can we take a vote?
Can we get back to this?
I would say not
An
believing in the
argument-
Constitution
an
in
argument
the United
ad-
States is kind of radical.
An
but
argument ad populum.
me.
Well, it was in the Constitution that we had slavery. Did you believe in the Constitution then?
I've always believed in the Constitution.
Except for the.
I didn't
Did you
believe
believe
in
in the
slavery.
slavery? Oh, you didn't. So you don't believe in the Constitution.
Well.
Oh, you didn't believe in the Constitution.
So you believed in slavery?
No, of course not.
Okay.
But you're making the argument to me. I don't believe in the Constitution. When
Well,
I
you
put it right
said
back
that.
on you, neither do you. So who cares?
Okay. Thank you. So, I wanted to ask you. So
I do believe in the Constitution, by the way. Sorry.
Just as
No,
it's
it's
written
okay.
right now. It's perfect right now.
Yes.
Like,
Go ahead.
for instance.
Don't let him interrupt you.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I just wanted to ask this, and I wanted to come at this from a Christian perspective because I'm genuinely really curious. I'm not trying to like back you into a corner or anything. I'm genuinely curious. So a lot of times on this show, I've seen a lot of girls who claim to be Christian. They come on here and they're like, "Oh yeah, you know, I'm on OF or I'm doing X, Y, and Z thing," and you know, you or someone else points out, well, that's kind of conflicting, right?
Sure.
So do you think that sometimes that your delivery can be kind of conflicting
conflicting with Christian values. I know that Jesus flipped the tables and everything, but I think there is a time and a place, and I think there is a way to conduct yourself. And I know that being polite, you know, it's and debates don't really go together a lot of times.
Would you be nice to a Satanist?
Yes, of course.
And would you be nice to Satan?
That's
love
a grand
the sinner
question.
and hate the sin.
Love the sinner and hate the sin.
That's nowhere in the Bible. You just made it up.
No, that is in the
Where?
Bible. That is in the Bible.
Where? In chapter, you just made it the.
No, I didn't.
Yeah,
earlier you said. Wait, I have something to say. Earlier,
pull it up. Let's find out if you're right.
I mean, I don't have my.
Andrew,
no, we'll pull it up.
Andrew, please.
Earlier
you said that.
You just made it the. Is that what should we?
Yeah, chapter. You just made it.
Drew, earlier you said that patriarchies have historically protected women. Can you cite something for me, or chat? Did you just make that?
Yes, I can. Actually, here's a great example of it. Have you ever heard of the Byzantine Empire?
Yes.
Who ran it?
Constantine.
Okay, great.
Bitch.
Constantine. Did Constantine put in a code?
Hold on.
Probably put up a law.
Can we not do name calling? Let's not do name calling.
Did Constantine put in a code?
Oh, but he can call me.
I was gonna say he can belittle.
What was it?
Nobody.
Probably there was probably something about not women, but they probably still shit out of all the women.
They probably did, huh? Based on you just made it up. Based on I just made it
yeah,
like you do everything.
Yeah, but you don't have evidence for your point either.
I do have evidence. We just agreed Constantine
What's the law
put
that he made?
in
What was the
a
law?
code. So,
what was the code?
So here, Constantine, after he took or converted over, inside of the Byzantine Empire, yes, of course, there was a doctrine that women were to be protected. And the reason that this happened is because one of the great assets when it comes to wartime is to make sure that your women are protected.
Can you tell me the specific tenets of the doctrine?
No, I don't need to give you the specific code to note that there is one.
Oh, so it's the you made that shit up chapter?
That's a genetic, what you're making right now is a genetic fallacy.
I'm using the same fallacy that you've been using on all of us, which is show me the exact evidence. Show me the exact date, time, whatever.
When did I say that? On an exacting, when it wasn't the position that you postulated.
You said that patriarchies have historically protected women.
And I just gave an example that you agreed with.
Okay, but that is false in more cases than it is.
Then give me a case where it's false and we'll argue it.
I hate it so much.
It's okay, we don't have to argue.
Did you have like step parents?
My dad was the only one who saw women after. My mom did not see a single person.
In your situation?
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean,
it's a generalization.
Of course that can happen, but
aren't men more likely to seek out fertile mates than women are?
Yeah.
So.
Well, no, it's not that they're more likely to seek out fertile mates. What we were discussing before was signs of what men would find attractive. And the reason I said they find youth attractive is because of fertility. So that's probably one of the reasons they find youth attractive.
Okay, but what I'm saying is like, I don't think there's like I don't know, you'd have to pull up a statistic, but is there really a rate at which one sex brings in a step parent more than the other?
Yeah, there is.
It's the women.
Yeah, we can look at the remarriage or the remarriage stats so that we can understand that, and then
that would be inaccurate though if it was just the remarriage stats.
Yeah, but I was going to give you more.
Okay.
So you can look at that. That's one metric that you can look at it. There's also polling done as to who have live-in boyfriends, who doesn't. Pew Research has a bunch of this. I don't remember what the polling agencies are. Everyone which has covered it, but yes, it is true. At least it's true as we know that women do tend to bring in more step parents.
Can you give me the point difference on those two statistics?
I can't off the top of my head.
You don't even have an estimate, like
a point. You mean a
like
point difference?
10 percentage points, or how much is the
I don't
difference?
know. I don't know what the distinction is, but it's significant. It's a significant distinction.
Okay.
So it's enough for there to be a deviation. So I mean, probably 15%, 20% more, I would guess.
So, how is that the women's fault, though? Because they're trying to find another provider for the home that you think is an important part of
they shouldn't have left
you're
their
saying
original
they should grow
provider.
up in a two-parent home. What if the original provider left, and you're saying the kid should grow up in a two-parent home?
Most divorces don't happen because the provider left. They happen because the woman initiates a divorce due to irreconcilable.
Most, but not all. What about what are the women who get left going to do then?
If we were just dealing with exceptions, we wouldn't.
We're not dealing with just exceptions. We're dealing with a large portion of the.
That's not a large portion.
No, men and women are individuals. Stop making it so based on your gender. Only women can break things up. Only women can leave the relationship. That's not true.
And
Men leave all the time. Yeah, but you're saying that it's an exception, which is false. You can't say exception.
It is.
It's sometimes one thing happens and sometimes other things happen.
So here's the thing.
When people
you
are
say
incompatible,
sometimes,
it could be
sure.
chosen by
So
either
I'll
side.
rephrase it the best way that I can then. Mostly women are doing this and not men. Mostly women are leaving marriages and not men. Mostly women. At the college level, it's almost all women. Then men are the exception because women are initiating 90% of the time. And then if we break those stats down along religiosity, we might come up with some different numbers. But yes, it's mostly women breaking up the home. And
How
yes,
do you know that's not men's fault?
well, because we can ask these women why the divorce happened. And we can look at court documents for the reasons that they put for the divorce. And we can run different polls where we're talking to them. And what we find is the same thing that was pulled up the other night here on whatever. He was a perfect guy. I just got sick of him. I don't like him anymore. There was no abuse. He didn't do anything wrong. I just don't like him
Is she not
anymore.
entitled to make that choice if she doesn't like her
Well,
husband anymore?
I think that if you put your own self's entitlement above that of your children, in order to have access to their father in a two-parent household, you're setting them up for failure. And that's what we see in the stats. That you should be, if you make the commitment to make children with him, and he's not abusing you, okay, and he's not beating you up, and he's not abandoning you, he's not doing all the bad things, then no, I think you should put your children before your own happiness. I think you have a duty and obligation to do so.
Aren't the children being exposed to the unhappiness of your marriage?
Well, that depends. It completely and totally depends. Aren't your children, though, even if they were exposed to the unhappiness of your marriage, if you're looking at the statistics of how much abuse happens external to that, when these divorces happen and the outcomes on children in these single-parent households, wouldn't it still be optimal for them to deal with mom and dad? You know, they don't always talk to each other, but they're in the same house. They take good care of us. And she prioritized the happiness of us over herself.
I don't think children are that capable. That sophisticated
Not only
line
that,
of
but
thinking.
the thing is...
But you're putting the onus of the responsibility on the female, which is just
because they're the
not
ones leaving.
correct. What
They're
if,
the ones leaving. That's why.
What if it's because they don't like how the man is treating the children?
That's not what they're reporting.
You think they're reporting completely accurate every single time?
Not every single time, but accurate enough. Accurate enough for us to get a pretty clear picture on why they're leaving. And they're not leaving because dad's beating up the kids or beating up her.
In some cases they are, and those aren't just exceptions. Those are not just exceptions.
In those cases,
They're
I would
huge parts of the
encourage.
statistic.
In those cases, I would encourage those women to leave those men if they're getting beat up or things like that. They should be leaving those men. But if all that was happening is women were leaving abusive men, okay, fine. You wouldn't see this type of mass decadence in society. This would not be the issue. The single mother households are not reporting that they're leaving or filing for these divorces due to anything other than self-fulfillment. Not because of abuse, not because of drugs, and not because he's leaving the home, not even because they're shirking their financial responsibilities a lot of the time. So it's like marriage is work, and yes, you should probably sacrifice your own happiness for the happiness of your children. Yes, I think that a woman has a responsibility to do that, and so does a man.
I'd agree, but what are the implications on that argument?
That we would probably end up with much better, more stable nuclear family households, and the reproduction rate would probably skyrocket, and women would probably not have to work nearly as much as they do right now, and probably be way happier and less mentally ill. That's what I would say would probably be the extension of that.
But that's not all because of feminism.
That's all got its roots in feminism, yeah. All of
No,
it.
I'd say a lot of it has its roots in the patriarchy.
Which things?
Well, first of all, feminism was made to begin with to counteract the patriarchy.
That was the rhetoric.
So there you go. You could say feminism would have never happened if there was never a patriarchy and we started with an egalitarian society, but that wouldn't have been possible because we hadn't invented guns yet and men had a monopoly on the use of force or whatever.
You can't have an egalitarian society. That's why we went through that whole thing in the beginning showing you why you can't.
We can't have an egalitarian society?
You can't. Because men have the monopoly on force. That's why we agreed to it.
We disagreed on that, though. Like,
No,
I still
we really
think that
didn't.
women can have force. I mean,
They can use force to a limited degree, but they cannot enforce. They'll never be the enforcers, and so they're never going to be equal with men. It's not ever going to happen. There's no place on planet Earth where women are like, you know what? Barbara, grab the Uzi. We're going to enslave these fucking assholes right now. It's never happened. It's never going to happen. But there has been the case where they've been like, hey, Abdul, grab the AK. And yes, the women have all been enslaved. That has happened.
Yes, but I'm saying in today's society, women have more influence on non-physical types of ways through politics and things like that.
Yeah, I don't disagree, but ultimately they only have that sway if men allow them to through enforcement. And if men collectively, because they've had this before.
But it's not men allowing them to.
They had it in Iran. They had it in Iran. They had women's liberation in Iran until the Iranian, and they were in politics and they had sway until the Iranians went, no, and took all that shit away, and they can't do anything about it. But you can have a revolution inside of a nation by men. That's done all the time. And they're able to take rights or give rights. That's just the way the world works. And one of the blind spots of feminism is, I don't know why, but they can't seem to see that. They can't seem to see that this perpetual egalitarianism is worthless because you can never really achieve it anyway. So I don't know why they're striving towards it so hard.
Why can't you get as close to it as possible?
Well, you can try to get as close to whatever you want as possible, but these outcomes that we're seeing on your pathway there certainly don't seem great. It doesn't seem like it was a great idea to wreck the nuclear family. That seems like a really fucking bad idea. And they did. It doesn't seem like it's a good idea to try to make men and women compete in the workforce. That seemed like a really fucking bad idea. These are not good ideas for society, and they haven't worked out very well.
But it's like most of these are on the basis of your your subjective morality. Like, you think that, like, it's so much worse because those children are coming out mentally ill because they have single mothers? Maybe they're way more able to take on opportunities with confidence or something like that because they are less prone to being submissive because they didn't have a father in the home. So they act more masculine.
So more mentally ill kids?
I'm saying that the problems that you have with feminism it's because we're getting farther from the patriarchy, right?
Yeah, and it's leading to really bad outcomes for everybody, including the women.
So during the patriarchy, it must have been really good. Like during the big part of the patriarchy, like way back when.
It's been pretty good for most women. Yeah, it's been pretty good.
So
it's been really hard on men, but it's been pretty good for women. Almost every place you look for the equalization between the two, men have had it basically way rougher than women.
Was that not their own choice? If they're the enforcers, they could have made it so that the women are the ones who have to do all of that shit.
They did not allow women to participate in the political process, and thus protected women and utilized women for what their role was, which was to take care of children.
Who said that was their role? God?
The necessity of what is enforcement. So they can't enforce. They could not drive the wolves away at night, literal wolves. You know, there used to actually be real wolves that would kill people at night in the countryside. Not a joke.
Holy shit. Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, you might think that this is, tongue in cheek, but the world was a much more dangerous place. And women relied on men. Men did not rely on them for protection, and they still have to. They just don't realize that they have to yet.
Well, now that we live in a society that has institutions that have power because people have given them power.
No, you mean like kings? You mean like the church? You mean like the millions of institutions?
They didn't guarantee rights the same way that our institutions do now.
Your institutions do not guarantee rights.
Yes, they do.
Your rights don't even exist. And if a king, you say a king can't guarantee
if they can be enforced, then they exist.
Okay, well then, if that's the case, then you had tons of rights under kings.
Okay, that's not what I meant. But what was the original point that I was making?
The original point that we were making was about the nuclear family and how you want to see more mentally ill children because that means that they can take on more responsibility.
I didn't necessarily say that, but not a bad take on my part from you rephrasing my argument. I mean, what's wrong with overcoming mental illness? I mean, I think that could help a person have a lot of empathy for other people.
So, if it is the case that you say, what's wrong with having to surmount a challenge? Would you say that to an SA victim? What's wrong with being SA'd? After all, it could actually make you a much better person that you overcame the fact that you were SA'd. Does that make sense to you?
I would not say that to them.
You would not say that to them.
But it's not the same thing.
Okay, but it is. You're just saying that it could make you a better person that you have a mental illness and you're able to overcome or deal with it.
So should she have aborted the kid then? So it wouldn't have to be born with mental illness?
How would you ever make that determination?
You just said 1 in 4. That's more than just an exception.
Not born with. I didn't say they're born with mental illness.
But they're gonna develop it based on their familial circumstances, according to you.
There's no way to determine.
Exactly. There's no way to determine where the mental illness came from.
No.
Would you look at that? So it could have been genetic.
Which children will have it.
It could have been from anything, any other factors besides
so
that.
dumb. There's no way to determine which children will have it. So not all children from single parents develop mental illness. Not all of them do. So it's impossible to determine which ones will. That's my point. Not that there still won't be 1 in 4 children with mental illness, just that you will not be able to make the determination which ones are. How could you ever do that? I couldn't even think of how that would even be possible.
Okay, you can't, but okay. So here's what we've gotten so far.
The nuclear family's bad.
Feminists have destroyed the nuclear family, and that's causing all the children to be mentally ill.
No, that has caused the workforce to require a two-worker household, that has taken children mothers out of the home to raise their children, that has caused a massive spike in divorces. The list kind of goes on and on. I listed a ton of things which feminism is the root cause of, and feminism has.
What is the root cause of feminism?
Occultism.
Patriarchy.
Occultism.
Patriarchy.
Occultism.
Feminism would have never. You admitted earlier that feminism would not have existed if not to reverse the patriarchy, and you just said that feminism is the root cause of all of these issues because we're trying too hard to reverse the oppression that you've put onto us.
So my first note was asking you: is not an entailment of feminism going to be, if it is to resist the patriarchy, that there is a patriarchy? Answer is yes. So I'm just looking at your entailment. But patriarchy is not what caused feminism. Occultism is what caused feminism. Occultism from the Protestant church specifically.
The existence of patriarchy allowed the conditions for feminism to exist.
Okay.
If society had been more egalitarian from the start, I'm not saying completely egalitarian, but if society had been more egalitarian from the start, where each individual was already able to choose, do I want to take care of the kids or do I want to work? Let me go find a mate who's the opposite, not based on the gender, but just based on individual, like their inclinations in life, then I don't think women would be as
but you're
hateful of men.
That's really funny that you bring this up. You're saying that feminism.
Lath donated $200. It really is crazy how privilege is invisible to people who have it. She has no idea how dangerous environment was long time now. Even now, no one is going to provide her security other than men.
That's correct.
Thank you,
Lath.
That's going to be true, but
continue on.
Anyway, what you're saying is this. This is actually your argument. I'll give it back to you. You're saying patriarchy didn't exist, then women would not have to fight for the fucked up conditions that we find ourselves in after they resisted the patriarchy. Brilliant argument. Genius. Love it.
No,
but that's your
I
argument.
said women wouldn't have to fight the fucked up circumstances that the patriarchy put them in.
And they started with more egalitarianism, right? And don't we have more egalitarianism now than we did under the patriarchy? And we find ourselves in these fucked up conditions, which means if we had egalitarianism then, those would have been worse than the patriarchy.
We were in up conditions before too. It's just different
what were the
ways.
Fucked up conditions?
Well, I mean, women were just all tied down to one outcome, and they couldn't vote.
No, they weren't
Personally,
tied down to one outcome.
I would love my daughters to be able to do whatever the they want.
So let me ask you this: if we could guarantee, let's just say we could guarantee that children would end up with way better outcomes in society, we could guarantee it, right? If parents stayed together, or even better, let's phrase it this way, we could guarantee that children will have better outcomes in society if women don't have the right to vote. Would you take away the right of women to vote then?
No.
If we could guarantee that the outcomes for mental illness would greatly reduce if you took away the right to women to vote, would you take away the right for women to vote?
No.
If you could guarantee that women would be far more secure and actually much, much, much happier if you took away their right to vote, would you take away the right to vote?
That would never happen.
If you could guarantee that they would be happier if they could not vote, would you take away the right to vote?
That would never happen.
No, answer my question.
That I don't believe it would ever happen.
Okay. If you thought that if the case could be made that their happiness would greatly increase because their mental illness decreases if you took away their right to vote. Would you do that?
It's not about happiness. You're doing the hedonist thing on me.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, it's about individual choice and values, not hedonism.
But hedonism is the outcome.
I'm saying
So what I'm asking you ultimately is this. I'll condense it. Would you take away women's rights to vote if it led to, generally speaking, better societal outcomes?
That's not what would happen, though.
But if it were to happen, that just generally societal outcomes got better, would you take away the right to vote?
I wouldn't.
You wouldn't, I know. And so this is the distinction between our moral systems, is that I believe that you live in contradiction, and that the right to vote, this right that you perceive, or the 19th Amendment, this type of thing, that even if we could guarantee that the outcomes were better if it was gone, you would still insist that it was there. And I think that that's the case with abortion. I think that that's the case with probably most of your beliefs, because that's feminist beliefs. Like, for instance, if we could guarantee that women would get far less venereal diseases and would have far less problems in society if we could criminalize premarital sex, would you do it?
I wasn't listening to your question, but one of those is an ideology.
I'm not going to debate with you.
Okay, repeat then. I'm sorry. Well, it's because I was thinking of what I was going to say next. My fault for being a slow woman. You can repeat your question if you'd like.
I'll repeat the question, and I'll make it even simpler. What I'm saying to you is this, if we could make a law which curtailed female promiscuity, meaning it was criminal for both men and women to have premarital sex, and that led to better outcomes for society, would you do it?
No.
No. So, I mean, ultimately, for you, the hedonism and pure selfism is the most important value, not individualism.
It's an emphasis on empathy and individual human rights.
That's not empathy.
Yes, it is. It's empathy for the individual, because your ideology is not based on empathy. It's based purely on subjectivism through the Bible and religious
I haven't offered
truths.
a single biblical argument. I'm just purely operating off of hedonistic.
All of your arguments
I'm
are
literally
biblical.
going off of this. The worldview is utilitarianism. Utilitarianism being harm. This comes from Mill, who says that harm is a physicality which exists inside of the norms of politics. Individualism, enlightenment. I'm going off of your worldview, which I wrote down and repeating back. Have not
I said at the beginning before I told you everything that I could not fully describe my worldview with just random ideological things, and you are already putting me in a box from that point. I can just believe what I believe without having to classify it.
That's true. You can, right? But ultimately, it's incoherent and it doesn't make a lot of sense. And when you say, well, wait, you're coming at me with a biblical worldview, no, I'm just giving you back your own worldview. I'm literally I just ran an entire internal critique showing you that ultimately, if we reduce all of these issues to outcomes for society, you would still not curtail behaviors like promiscuity, divorce. You wouldn't curtail any of these things, even if it led to better outcomes for children.
Because that's like eugenics, basically.
That is not utilitarianism.
Isn't this like okay, I see. Well, you're right, then.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm good. Brian?
I got